Hello, everyone. So welcome now to the first session of keynote talks. So today we have three speakers: Professor Kovirta from University of Helsinki, Professor Siti Subandia from Gajah Mada University, and from the Academy of Finland, Johanna Hakala. The presentation will be each presenter will present 20 minutes, and we will have 10 minutes for Q&A. So first presenter is the Professor Marco Virta. I will briefly introduce him. So Professor Marco Virta is the professor at Department of Microbiology, and he's also in Department of Food and Nutrition, Helsinki One Health, and antibiotic resistant in human impacted environments. So, Professor Marco Virta, I would like to welcome you to the stage and present. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Yeah, I will talk about antibiotic resistance and the environment, and I will also try to get some view between Finland and Indonesia to my talk. First, about antibiotics. So the antibiotics are very important for us in order to survive. And it's not only the traditional infectious diseases, but also things like surgery, cancer treatment, and organ transplantation. Those would be impossible without functional antibiotic treatment. Childbirth would be possible, but it's much more safe with functioning antibiotics. Something that we may not realize really is that also animal husbandry is very much depending on antibiotics. They are misused with animals, but they are also very important for treating animal diseases. And we now know that resistance is increasing problem. So it means that antibiotics are less effective or not at all effective. Developing new antibiotics is an important thing. However, it won't really solve the problem, because whenever a new antibiotic has been taken into clinical use, resistance has always to follow sooner or later, usually quite soon. And there was a report ordered by UK government some 5-6 years ago, and it projected that in 2050 there will be 10 million deaths annually, and that because of AMR, and that would be more than deaths in cancer. And in the same report, it was anticipated how those deaths would happen in the different continents. And it's obvious that Africa and Asia would have the biggest problems. So this is something that we should all be interested in. Oh. And why this is also interest of Finland, we will learn later. When we think about antibiotic resistance, it's a question of evolution, more or less something like Charles Darwin described. So if you have a microbial population consisting of different species having different level of resistance to antibiotics, if we put that community to selection such as giving antibiotic treatment, after selection we will only have left those ones that are resistant until multiply. So is that situation, that kind of selection situation, also possible in the environment? We don't really know. We know that it's possible, but how possible? We should remember that when we take antibiotics or give antibiotics to animals, most of the antibiotic compounds are excreted, so they end up to the environment. Also, in the production of antibiotics, the antibiotics end up to the environment. The same, of course, goes on with the animal use. And something that we really don't understand is how metals and biocides and things like that contribute, because they can cause very similar selection pressure. And this is now maybe a little bit detailed, but I will show it anyway. And traditionally, in microbiology, the sensitivity or resistance of a bacteria is characterized by MIC value. That's minimal inhibitory concentration. It's the smallest concentration of an antibiotic that inhibits visceral of the bacteria. We can read it from this graph at the top, which has in x-axis tetracycline concentration. Tetracycline is one antibiotic, and in y-axis growth rate. And there are two different curves. The red one is for resistant bacteria, and the blue one is for sensitive bacteria. And we can read the MIC values from the point where the lines cross the x-axis. So obviously, with the red line crosses the axis at higher concentration, because the red one is the resistant bacteria. And traditionally, we have only compared these two values. But when we look at the graphs in total, we can see that the selection starts happening already before there is total inhibition of the growth. So antibiotic selection is happening on much smaller concentrations than this MIC value. And that's why we have this MSC value, minimum selective concentration. And these concentrations are, of course, very much dependent on the conditions. So if we test these in the laboratories, we don't know how valid they are in real environments. Small antibiotic concentrations, they also induce mutations and genetic mobility. Mutations means that there may be new antibiotic resistance genes formed, and genetic mobility means that the genes can move. The antibiotic resistance is in genes. Here we see a bacterium, and in that bacteria there is plasmid that contains, in this case, 3 colorful genes. These are all different antibiotic resistance genes. So they cause antibiotic resistance to one antibiotic, and it's usually as simple as that. If a bacterium has that gene, resistant to that antibiotic. These genes can also move between bacterial cells and also between different bacterial species, at least with these 3 mechanisms. In addition, there are things called transposons, which are DNA elements that move these genes between different genetic elements in the bacterium. So they can move between plasmids and chromosomes, between phages and plasmids, or phages and chromosomes. There are also things called integrons that collect different resistance genes. So then in one stretch of DNA, there can be many different antibiotic resistance genes, also resistance genes for metals or biocides. And when we put all these things together, and we can, for example, look this one plasmid, which is just one plasmid that has been studied for decades, but in principle nothing special. We just know this plasmid very well. When we look at this plasmid and we start from the left side, there is one transposon, transposon 10. Transposons are named by the numbers. And in that transposon, there is resistance genes for tetracycline antibiotics. Then if we start looking at the bottom of the plasmid, there is this transposon 9-like transposon that has gene called CAT, which gives the resistance to chloramphenicol antibiotics. After that gene, there is another transposon, transposon 21. And in that transposon, there is this MER operon, which causes resistance to mercury. And inside that transposon 21 is yet another transposon, transposon 402. And inside that transposon is that one integron that has 3 genes, 2 genes for antibiotic resistance, this AADA1 for aminoglucoside antibiotics, and SUL1 for sulfonamides. And this QuAC-E gives resistance to disinfectants for quaternary ammonium salts. So putting these things together, there are in this plasmid 4 different antibiotic resistance genes, 1 metal resistance operon, and 1 biocide resistant gene. So presence of any of these 6 causes selection for 5 others. In addition, we don't really understand if there is a combination, for example, biocide and antibiotic, how they work together for the selection pressure. In fact, when I look at this plasmid, I'm a little bit surprised that any antibiotics work at all anymore. But they do. There are many things that we don't understand in antibiotic resistance, but one is for sure. More there is push, more there is resistance. In this example, we see the total antibiotic use in different countries for humans, and it's per population. And in y-axis, there is some resistance level of 1 bacterial species in clinical samples. And there is clear correlation. More a nation uses antibiotics, more there is a resistance. However, if you, for example, look at China and Australia, they use more or less similar amount of antibiotics, but the resistance level for Australia is something like 6%, and for China is almost 60%. So there is obviously also something else. And what could that be? One could be the animal use. So in global scale, most of the antibiotics are used for animals, and that is even for healthy animals. We know that if we give antibiotics to animals in small amounts, they grow faster. So that's called growth promotion use. If we treat animals in order to keep them healthy, so we give them antibiotics even though they are not infected. That's called prophylactic use. But that's of course just different word for giving antibiotics for healthy animals. Then there is of course treatment of sick animals, which is something that we must do. But especially for big units, this difference between growth promotion use and prophylactic use is very vague. Both growth promotion use and prophylactic use is now forbidden in EU, also in Japan and Canada. In US, there is some kind of a ban for using antibiotics for growth promotion, but it's not very strict. In China, there is no really restriction, for example, and China uses a lot of antibiotics for animals. Something that we in Finland may not realize, that even in most EU countries, veterinarians and also maybe medical doctors sell the drugs. So if they prescribe antibiotics, they also sell the antibiotics. And they may get even most of their incomes by selling drugs. And that's of course something that promotes drugs and also antibiotics. So in global picture, antibiotics are over-the-counter drugs. You don't need prescription. And even if you do need a prescription, doctors or veterinarians are keen to prescribe antibiotics. And what else there could be than antibiotic use? Things like education or number of doctors in a society, they correlate negatively with antibiotic resistance. So better the education, less there is resistance. On the other hand, things like open defecation practice or informal employment, they correlate positively with antibiotic resistance. Other way of looking at this is to take a look at country level and check different things. Here on top is the antibiotic resistance in different countries, and green is good, yellow is less good, and red is bad. Top is the antibiotic resistance. Then bottom right is the corruption and governance index, and left side is the quality of the infrastructure for each country. And if we just eyeball these maps, it seems to be quite obvious that there is at least some kind of correlation between resistance and especially this corruption and governance index. We now understand that our health as humans is connected to animal health and also health of the environment. So that's why we call our health as one health. All these things should be considered together because we share same treatments, for example, with animals. We also share the same pathogens with animals mostly, and we also get infected by the environment. This view should be kept in research, but it should also be important in decision making, legislation and control. And it has both local and global dimensions. So our global health consists of one health units, but they are connected with, for example, travel and trade. They are also connected by animal migration and weather, like storms. But I would argue that travel and trade are the most important connectors. And because we have this one health and global health, we in Finland, although we have quite small problem in antibiotic resistance, we should be interested in the global antibiotic resistance. We should of course be interested in that as humans, but we should also be interested in that for selfish reasons. I will now show some examples of antibiotic resistance in different environments. This is our study where we studied antibiotic resistance in 12 different wastewater treatment plants located in 7 European countries. We use this array qPCR method, the same method that RESMAP is using. First, this is the data for the influence. So we were able to divide the countries in Europe to groups. The high antibiotic use and another one is low antibiotic use. And in this graph, the low antibiotic use is in the left side. And when we look at the results in a map, for example, in the right side, here is our results, the antibiotic resistance in different countries. So we see that in the countries like Norway and Finland, there is less resistance, then there is more resistance in Germany, and the highest resistance is in South, in Spain and Portugal. We only covered few countries here because those which are in gray, we didn't have any samples. And if we look at the maps that show the antibiotic use in Europe or clinical resistance, we see that there is, or there may be some kind of correlation between antibiotic use and antibiotic resistance in wastewater. Since the wastewater treatment plants are sometimes considered a hotspot for antibiotic resistance, I want to show this thing. First, our results are relative, so it means that they are relative to number of bacteria. So, number of bacteria, change in number of bacteria doesn't change our results if the resistance level per bacteria stays the same. We think that that's the best way of comparing different samples. We show here the relative reduction of resistant genes in waste purification plants. So it's in this graph, and it shows logarithmic of the reduction. So the reduction is 0.5, but because it's logarithmic, it's real reduction. It's remarkable reduction. And when we add the fact that the number of bacteria is reduced during the wastewater treatment process, something like 1,000-fold, maybe 100-fold, our results show that the wastewater treatment plant is not a real hotspot if it works well. But I must emphasize here that all treatment plants that we had here, they were just normal wastewater treatment plants, nothing fancy, but they were state of the art, so they were very good normal wastewater treatment plants. Good meaning that they were good in removing nutrients, which is why they were designed for. But this doesn't tell situation if the wastewater treatment plant is not working well. If we take more global scale, this is from this global monitoring of antimicrobial resistance in sewage project, and this covers the entire globe, as we see from this map where they show the sampling sites. However, it's not perfect sampling plan. There is, for example, only one sample from China, and for me it's difficult to really believe that you can represent China in one sample. Many samples in Europe, which is kind of an oversample. But anyway, this is done with different method. This is done by metagenomics, meaning DNA sequencing, but that's not a real issue here. One issue that makes the comparison difficult is that these are absolute values, so they are not related to number of bacteria. So if the number of bacteria is growing up, it also shows that the resistance is going up, which may not really mean that the resistance in such is really going up. But still there I can show we can see that Europe is minor player, and the biggest problems seem to be in Africa and South America. Asia, which is maybe often thought to be or have big problems in AMR, is not that big. Then a few words about Indonesia and AMR. I think there is still lack of data in antibiotic resistance in Indonesia, especially in animal farming and environment. And maybe this audience knows that Indonesia has a very huge population. I don't think that average Finns knows that Indonesia is a huge country, over 260 million population. And over half of those people live in Java, which means that Java is very densely populated. We were interested in antibiotic resistance in one river, Kode River, which flows through Jakarta city. And we have submitted this manuscript for publication. And just briefly, maybe summarize that the main contribution for antibiotic resistance in Kode River comes from the city and not so much from the rural sites and not so much from agriculture. The contribution of the estuary is not that clear. There is also kind of a dilution in the place where the river meets the ocean. I don't have time for details now. I can say a few words about this project. So this was funded by Academy of Finland, developmental research call, and this was collaboration between Indonesian scientists from Universitas Gadjah Mada, UGM, as we call it, and company Amon-Ra. And here on the right side are some outcomes in addition to results that I just showed. I think Restomap, Finnish company founded by Vinni Mutsesari, is one outcome of this project because Vinni was working as a postdoc in this project and her work was essential. Then we also, when this was finished, we got another funding from Academy of Finland for studying antibiotic resistance in West Africa. It was also kind of some kind of a spin-off of this Indonesian project. And we have now this multidisciplinary center of excellence in antimicrobial resistance research, and it includes the collaboration with UGM. So also this center of excellence is somehow product of this project. So I think that this project, this Indonesia project, was very successful and fruitful. So thank you for Academy of Finland for funding that. Then I couldn't for things challenges in collaboration. So I still remember applying the research permit. It was very complicated process. I have put here more than 18 attachments. It was something like 30 at the beginning, but I think we managed to have 18, and that gave us the permit. And it would have been impossible without Vinni. It would have been impossible without UGM. So my one suggestion for possible improvement is maybe a little bit easier permit that excludes commercial rights. And for the researchers, keys to success are flexible plans and schedules. So we wasted 1 year by selecting wrong collaborator. But when we found a better collaborator, that's UGM, then everything went very well. And I have used my time, have I? So I must skip this.
Yeah, I think time is up. So we can open for Q&A for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Do we have any questions from the audience? There. Can use the microphone there near Mas Alvan.
Check.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for the very nice presentation. My name is Alvan. I'm doctoral student in economics at the University of Helsinki. I'm interested with your slide showing the scatter plots between antibiotic and several factors. If I recall it correctly, there is a positive correlation between antibiotic and informal employment. I just want to ask quick question. Is there further evidence about the causality between the antibiotics and this informal employment? It seems that I suppose that the high use of antibiotics done by the middle income and lower class. Maybe there is a further evidence about the causality, because we know that the correlation just show the relationship. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So this was from paper by Henriksen et al. So it was not my own data, but they were just studying finding out the correlation between AMR and these 4 developmental indicators. So I have no idea of causality. And it's of course something that these can be used for getting idea of what some things that could be studied in more detail.
Yeah, another question from.
This is a very simple question, but thank you very much for the presentation. I feel like living in a foreign planet because I'm very far away from the subject, but it is indeed very interesting. My question is related to, hold on, it's about the research permit, submitting research permit. And you said that it is very complicated process when it comes to research proposal submitted to the Indonesian government, of course. I was just wondering if you encounter similar problem also in any other countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. And we have been working in Africa, Benin, Burkina Faso, and Mali. And here we haven't needed any permit. We need permit for exporting samples and DNA, but not for the actual research. Then I have worked in different European countries, but that's of course a different case. And I also sample in Japan, for example, in Vietnam. But no, there is usually no research permit. So if you collaborate with locals, it's just no paperwork. Sometimes there is maybe memorandum of understanding, but that's quite simple process. But I have also heard that this process is not as complicated as it used to be anymore. But we are just starting to agree to, or to apply new research permit. So I don't know yet, but I have high hopes that that's already much easier now.
I was told that you can do it online now.
I have heard that. Yes. So that's very nice, and it's very cool.
Okay, I think the time is up for your session. Thank you, Professor. Yeah. So we are moving on to the second speaker. The second speaker is Professor Siti Subandia, Department of and Protection, Head of Research Center for Biotechnology, UGM. Yeah, I will welcome Professor Siti to present.
Good morning. Selamat pagi. Good morning as well. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much to attend this meeting. It is very good, and I'm also thank you to the committee to give me some opportunity to share with you. Actually, I don't prepare very good presentation, but I maybe would like to have more discussion with you. Okay, thank you. I'm from Kacamata University. Okay, the topic for me is why Indonesian researchers need international research collaboration. My answer is actually I don't know exactly why, but I know that it is needed, especially for my field, because this is from my experience. Yeah. So I will share with my experiences in doing international collaborations. When I was quite young, it was I got a small grant from USID. Very small, but we can have networking then. It was of course it is like a selective and competitive one. And then next we have some collaboration with Australian researcher and also Southeast Asian under Asia project, and then with the Netherlands under KNO, and then with this is also multilateral under PMPITS, and then with CIRAC here in Europe, and then now we still having a Southeast Asian and European joint venture scheme. And I started now with Professor Marco Virta under the Academy of Finland. This is we are very happy to have this collaboration here, and hopefully so maybe we can discuss it later on in this collaboration. Okay, as the introduction, yeah, we know that research collaboration is a kind of a cooperation of researcher in scientific activity to achieve a common goal. Of course, this common goal should be belong to all of the parties in the collaboration. And this international research collaboration is supposed to be people with different nations working together, and then also with different interests to work together, sharing knowledge and information to complete the task to achieve a common goal with activities, of course, need coordination. Yeah, that kind of definition. So, of course, we have to be aware in this collaboration that everybody should have commitment and so on. Yeah, commitment and interest. Yeah. So, in the global challenge, in many aspects, need international collaboration. Yeah, not only, and then Indonesia, of course, needs international collaboration for national development. Yeah, when we compare to any other countries in the world, yeah, we are still left behind, and we need to have a collaboration with the developed one so we can improve our nation. Yeah. And of course, in here, young generation need to be adaptive and contributive. Not only in the national but also international level, yeah, as a part of this global community. Yeah. And Indonesia now is becoming to the developed country, and it should be having achieved in 2045 by research and innovation-based economy. Yeah, that's telling for us to get that. And to become a research and innovation-based economy, research collaboration across countries is as the promising strategy, yeah, to enhance science and also technology capacity. In here, the goal of international research collaboration is to increase the researchers' scientific capacity to gain innovation technology and development of the nation economy, and of course to get well-being among us. International research collaboration require long-term research and significant funding support for research to enhance innovation. That's it. So that's why if we cannot afford this funding, we may need any support from our counterparts outside of Indonesia. To increase innovation, some researchers collaborate maybe with national or international industries, especially the industries which is still emerging. Usually when the industry is already very big, maybe they don't need our collaboration. Yeah, because they already have very good research and development team. Yeah? And the collaboration has an impact on developing new product and process and capacity, training and automation. And this international research collaboration, there are three important factors. Yeah. One is the global common goal. We just have a discuss with the antimicrobial resistance. It's already required. So it is a kind of global common goal. How to stop or to prevent the spread of antimicrobial, because it's already as a global problem. And here we also with existing of scientific activities, of course, yeah, and involving actors with different nations and various perspectives. Yeah. And the factor that determine the success of the international research collaboration, especially one funding, and then integrating different perspectives among actors to achieve the goal. Yeah, this is a very important as well. Of course, all of the actors should feel commitment to solve the problem. Yeah. And networking is have to be very tight. Yeah. And opposite very good networking, yeah, and then communication, of course, and also actor reputation. Yeah, in this case, to somebody to have collaboration. That's based on the reputation talking this. And of course, there are trust and personal relationship also very important. Yeah. And motivation and also interest of the whole team to be there. Yeah. Of course, it is step by step to get there. Yeah. International research collaboration and also with some risk and also reward in every step. We have to evaluate that one. And in this case, for the management, clear objective has to be understood by all the team, agreement and role, agreement on role, and the monitoring, communication, size of organization. Usually when we have too big organization involved in the collaboration, it will be more complicated, more problem, and maybe difficult to be solved. Yeah, but with a smaller but everybody will commit, it will be much better. And other thing time management also. This is very important. Okay, so by this by doing this international collaboration with large project experiences, access to knowledge, sharing expertise, funding, leverage, and science diplomacy. Yes, of course, we have, thank you very much for supporting for every embassies in in the countries that we have collaboration here. And higher profile, creation of new network, and all of that benefits for the international research collaboration. The framework factors here, personal factor as an actor. Yeah. It's include trust, communication, and attraction, commitment, interest, network, and reputation. Very important factor in here. And the pressure of research collaboration process, it needs initiation, yeah, and then verification, and also implementation and completion. Yeah. And also another factor, which is supported by the institution, nation, and international. Management factor, the objective of the collaboration, mutual benefit agreement, organization has to be stated clearly. All factors were interrelated and determine the success of this collaboration. The actor in collaboration who work on the collaboration from the start and the end of the project, or for a large part of it, and or to make frequent or substantial contribution. Yeah. Sometimes in the group we just name, but we have any activities. It's become not good environment in the team. Yeah. Those whose names appear in the original research proposal, that usually because usually they are the one who start the project. Yeah. Those who are responsible for one or more of the main element of the project. Yeah. And so those who are responsible for a key step, important one. And also those who are proposed initial project and then implemented in the next step. In this case, the actor is not only researcher, but also industries, government, and institutions involved in this collaboration. So thank you very much for people for bringing our collaboration with the University of Helsinki. Yeah. Motivation is also very important. Yeah. The motivation of research collaboration can be in 6 categories, which is technical, epistemic, financial, educational, political, and strategic. Of course, there is a political one, in this global collaboration. Those motivations are different among researchers, industries, and government in different countries. The main motivation for researchers, of course, it is scientific improvement. For industries, is innovation and business improvement. And for the government, of course, it is mission capacity and enhancement in science, technology, and industry. So in this group, all of us will have different motivation, but become integrated to solve problem or to reach the goal, common goal in collaboration. So in here, agreement rules and international collaboration, we also have to follow like the Cartagena Convention, Nagoya Protocol, and so on, and also in the national rule and regulation. Yeah, in each country, as the member of the collaboration, like Indonesian government rules on the export and import of genetic resources. That's very important. And of course, quarantine rules not to spread any harmful to the country is other. Yeah. Of course, permission certificate for foreigner research to do research in Indonesia is just a kind of issue as well. That now improving for the process of the permission. And the certificate is only for a certain period, so maybe we can have extending the permission, but of course we have to apply for that one. And in this case, the host, see like me at Gajah Mada University and maybe my counterpart, we have to have a coordination to get the permission. Yeah. And even not only the foreigner researcher who will be evaluated, but also the host, in Indonesia. And we also, many times, we have also to consider local wisdom in the area we have to the research. So in this case, administration of MOU, MOA, MPA, MSA, TPM. Now we just got the issue on TPM. Like it's a kind of diplomatic MOU, something like that. When a real MOU already expired or hasn't been set yet. However, the collaboration is already started. Yeah, like now we have transition on the organization in Indonesia becoming breathing, but used to be many institutions. So one of the solutions for temporary. So what is the benefit for Indonesian researcher to have international collaboration? Of course, here we have the opportunity to learn and upgrade their knowledge and capacity. And research collaboration with stronger network produce higher quality of output other than if we have only doing our research in our group in Indonesia. And of course, it has positive impact on research output, also on the researcher as an individual. Yeah, of course, becoming more confident to have more collaboration. So it's becoming more and more collaboration. And positive impact on our productivity of researcher could increase researcher capacity through sharing knowledge and technology, of course. Yeah. And of course, obtaining formal scientific knowledge, micro-organizational capability, social and technical skills, capacity building, because in the collaboration research, usually we also invite students to involve. So it is also kind of very good capacity building. Research funding, yes, of course, need to be for international transport, coordination, and international research collaboration with developed countries is leading on funding and support, also knowledge, technology, and expertise. Yeah, but in this collaboration with developed countries, of course, there are also something that needed, which is something like natural assets or research objects and problem to be solved, which are here usually related to developing countries. Like Indonesia, we have we need to explore, to identify, analyze, develop for better and potential of the nations. What is biodiversity? In this case, we need help. We need collaboration with developed countries, more sophisticated technology, and so on. But of course, we have to consider each other. Benefit for both.
Professor, you have about 2 minutes.
Okay, so for the core information, international research collaboration is needed and useful to develop knowledge, technology, innovation, economic and organization. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for nice presentations. Now, again, we are opening the Q&A sessions. Is there any questions from the audience? Okay, maybe I can ask one question. So I just wondering how many UGM students already have the collaborative project with let's say this university or also in other countries. And because you mentioned that also it can improve the motivation of the students and so.
For this university, but I think there was other collaboration before, but in this starting point for university, at least we have only one PhD.
Okay.
And 2 masters.
Okay. Okay.
And also, I have been looking along because I was busy with several projects with the Asia project or Australian Center for International Research. With several projects, I have more than 50 students in here.
Okay.
PhD, close to 20 years.
Okay.
More than 30.
Yeah.
So that's involved in the research. So this is not only for the project, for the research project, but also capacity building. And it will be going more. Our students will have more opportunity to have more collaboration.
Really nice. Yeah. Thanks for the report. Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't see it. Yeah. Sorry.
You mentioned that, of course, the research needs direct you to a lot of developed countries, but what about your neighboring countries or other Asian countries? Is there a lot of cooperation there?
Like some developed countries like Australia under Asia project, in here we have to have at least several countries. If bilateral, maybe only Indonesia and Australia. In our case, also include Vietnamese. Now we have with Laos and Philippines, something like that. And for like and kids, and kids vision, they are focusing 60% of their funding for Africa and only 40% for Asia. So in the group, we have to have team member from Africa and from Southeast Asia. Yeah, it is quite big one. Yeah, multilateral. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ibu Professor, thank you very much for the presentations. I just would like to share with you your views on the need of political will to establish the international research cooperation, because this has to be mutual understanding between the two, or at least the two countries. We have this, mechanism, bilateral mechanism with Finland, bilateral consultation forum. I hope to raise this issue on need of collaboration in research between Indonesia and Finland. But then, of course, we cannot. This has to be also the need from the Finnish side, and I would like to urge the University of Helsinki to be the pioneer to express this. I know there has been, a great willingness, but then of course we need to tell the Ulco Ministerio to also be supportive in this regard, because as mentioned earlier, that collaboration is needed because we have shared common interests, especially in this regard on microbial resistance. It is a common interest for only the two countries, but also the whole world, because we want to have a better world. Thank you.
Do we have another questions? Maybe one more question from the online, if there is any. Open the online question. Do you have any questions from the audience online, or just to make sure we have still maybe one questions, if not 10.
Yeah, kind of collaboration. Of course, we have to have a kind of agreement between the whole stakeholders. However, actually, in my experience, when say I have a project between Gajah Mada and University of Queensland, something like that, and also DPI, something like that. Actually, we also can invite other groups. And actually, from so far I know, the funding agency even much happier when we can share with other groups. Yeah. So you just here, I don't know what is name, but you just contact maybe the PIC when you are in Indonesia, so maybe the PIC in Indonesia, we can talk. Yeah. It is okay. Just like we have last time, our Asia project, although this is with UGM, but we also involve our counterpart in Kalimantan, in Papua, in Timor. Yeah. So it don't be so high or seem to be, oh, I'm not the member. No, you can talk with us, with the member of the team. Yeah. That's probably you also can be one of the member in.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Professor. So yeah, I think we can end the presentations from Professor Siti. Thank you very much. Mhm. So next is the third presenter from the Academy of Finland, Johanna Kala. Like to welcome you on the stage. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. And first of all, I'm very pleased to be here. So thank you for the kind invitation. And I was very pleased to be able to hear the previous presentations and enjoy some scientific discussion and partly in real life, which is very new since two years. And now I'm asked to present Academy of Finland funding opportunities for international cooperation, and you got a little bit of flavor from Professor Virta's presentation already. There is some funding from us indeed. Yes. And in my presentation, I will just very briefly introduce the Finnish research and innovation system, and then look at an overview of the Academy of Finland and our international policy, and then present a few funding opportunities. Well, it's actually amazing how simple picture you can make of Finnish research and innovation system. It's not quite true, but of course this is of the public research funding. The Ministry of Education, Science and Culture, and the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment are the responsible ministries. The Academy of Finland functions under the first mentioned ministry, whereas Business Finland functions under the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment, and I found that later this afternoon, at least Christopher Palmgren from Business Finland will be joining the seminar, which is very good. So we are the two government agencies. Academy of Finland funds basic research, but it's a term we do not prefer anymore. We don't want to make such a difference between basic and applied research, but we say we fund high quality research. And then Business Finland is more funding innovation and some even international. The Academy of Finland was evaluated just a few months ago, and one of the outcomes of this evaluation was a comment on the Finnish research and innovation system that there's a little bit of a missing part funding for applied research. So that is a little bit of a problem in the Finnish system. And of course, competition for Academy of Finland funding is very hard. So anyway, the research performing organizations, I'm sure some of you know them very well, but we have now, after several merges, we have 13 universities. We have 24 universities of applied sciences, and then we have government research institutes, which also have been merged together, and now as a result of this big process, there are 12 of them. The size varies very much. VTT is one of the largest research institutes it's the largest in the Nordic countries and very large in European view too. And then there are some small ones. Yes. Well, as was mentioned before, Finland is usually ranked quite high when you look at the R&D, research and development spending. So the share of our GDP is fairly high. It could be bigger. It has been bigger. and the national goals for it are 4%. This, of course, assumes that the private sector, which you can see, 67% of the spending comes from the private sector, and it mainly goes to the private sector, the innovation companies, and higher education spending is 25%, and other public sector 8%. And on the other side, on the right-hand side, you can see the expenditure. So it seems, you get a little bit of more full-time equivalence in the public sector for the same money. Yes. Okay. There's again a different type of picture of the expenditure in Finland. And that was all of that. But anyway, I would like to also mention that, of course, there's the public research funding by the Finnish state, but I should also mention EU funding, of course, is very important. We pay in the form of the membership fees to the EU, and then, for instance, Finnish foundations. Of course, they are not public, but they're kind of semi-public, and they contribute a lot to the Finnish research as well. Okay, about the Academy of Finland, for those who don't know it so well, I'm starting with the history even. Well, just to say that in 1970 it was founded in its current form as a funding organization. Before that it was a collection of eminent Finnish researchers, and even today the historical name is a bit confusing because some people confuse with Eastern European style of research academies, or then academies of science, which are then a different story. So we are a research council, and we have two main roles: application funding and then providing science policy expertise. We are mentioned in the law on Finnish Academy, and our research councils, who mainly make the funding decisions, they have a certain independence guaranteed in the law. And since 2019, we have 3 councils. Before that, we had 4. In this change, the Council of Pure Sciences and Biosciences and Environment were put together with the Council of Health. Our strategy is to advance the quality and impact of scientific research to support the renewal of science and develop research environments of Finland. So, as our previous president was always mentioning in public, it's often in the research community, the role of Academy of Finland in funding research. Some researchers even say it's the only funding source which you can use for basic research. If you look at the statistics, it's about 20% of the research expenditure at universities. But of course, the university funds are often tied to the salaries, the space, labs, etc. So if you want to start something new, something bigger, the Academy of Finland is a very desired funding form, and you can perhaps leave your teaching duties aside, etc., and build a team. Our funding is still mainly bottom-up funding, and that means especially it's ideas originating from researchers themselves, really, and we can take funding with a certain top-down request for certain kinds of projects. But we have nowadays lots something in between, so we have different types of, for instance, NUIS is the flagships funded by the Academy of Finland. Flagships are quite big research entities which cover like research, applied research, innovation, and they need to have funding, quite a lot of funding from other sources to attain this position. But even there, we don't predefine any thematic area for them, but there's a certain concept for the funding. We are very similar to other research councils in other European countries or European Research Council. Our budget this year is 3 390 million euros. It's more than in the previous years, but it might be much bigger next year. And this is a very nasty situation because we don't know yet, but there are some severe cuts suggested, also indications that these cuts will be cancelled, but we don't know yet. There's maybe a picture way, okay, you see the 2021 budget was quite a lot bigger, but here are our main tasks once again. But going through the competitive nature of our funding, so individual research can apply, research groups can apply, and then nowadays also research organizations may apply for funding. Evaluators come from a broad to avoid any conflicts of interest, but also comparison to international level through this review system is considered very important. So as Professor City was mentioning, international cooperation is important to solve common problems, very important. But from the Academy of Finland perspective, it's mainly for quality, but of course, at the same time for achieving common goals. So they go nicely together. But this is special for a small country like Finland. So to avoid these problems, we have already in the 1990s started to invite evaluators from abroad. Funding from Academy Finland is limited, usually 4 years, which is of course a problem if you want to have a long-term cooperation, for instance. Competition is hard, this is a problem. We get about 3,500 or more applications per year. More than 80% of our funding goes to universities. All can apply, but this is the fact. And funding is only given to Finnish research sites. So, but there's some exceptions, but this is the main rule. And here you see a list of the review criteria. First of all, scientific quality, but also, of course, other things are reviewed, and also research and mobility and such things. And always international cooperation is viewed in terms of the aim of the whole project. So it's not the end in itself, but it's a means to quality. Decision making, as I mentioned, it's mainly done by the councils or similar bodies. It's, you know, multidisciplinary research, for instance, it's across the councils, then it's members from the different councils come together to form a decision-making body. And people in the councils, they are usually professors of different fields. Yes. Our support for this is kind of the main principles for our support. First of all, as I just said, it means for quality, impact, and renewal of research. And the main channel for our support is our core funding instruments, the normal instruments. Other European research councils, some of them have very big bilateral projects, calls for projects, for instance, with China, Indonesia perhaps. But we have had that. We had a period of quite active bilateral cooperation, for instance, with China, some calls with Japan, India, Russia. But now, then we had a long break without any such bilateral calls, and now we have some cooperation with the US National Science Foundation and National Institutes of Health. This is the current situation. But the main philosophy is that researchers decide with whom to collaborate and where mobility should be directed, and assessment is serves the aims of the project is done by the international. And also mentioned in the last bullet is our kind of division of labor with other Finnish actors. we have some separate funds for special instruments for international cooperation, but it's not working very much for the benefit of cooperation with Indonesia, unfortunately. So we fund some Nordic programs and European research programs. We also have some mobility grants to selected countries outside Europe, but Indonesia is not among them, and we are not planning to broaden the selection of countries now. Actually, now we stopped having this with Russia. So, yeah. So, and also we fund a lot of international infrastructures and organizations like YASA, for instance. I'm not sure if YASA in Vienna for System Analysis Institute. Then we have developed program, which was mentioned by Marco Virta at the beginning. It's funded with the Ministry of Foreign years, so every call is agreed separately. So the last call was in 2008. I'll come back to that. Okay, I said I have a little overview of funding opportunities, but then one slide on academic research fellowships. It's a new instrument, not yet confirmed. So I'm telling about the change that is going on, and it's not yet quite confirmed. And then academic research projects. Funding opportunities, we have those for researchers and research teams, quite a few, also centers of excellence mentioned by Marco, but I'm not going more into detail with that. Then we have some thematic funding, like Develop program is one of the academic programs, and of course there has been a biodiversity themed program, so of course that would also include cooperation, for instance, with Indonesia. So it's not closing out that. Okay, that's in white, hard to see. Okay, that's the most recent funding instruments where organizations are applicants. Okay, this is the new funding scheme planned to be opened already next autumn. We have a big autumn call. Almost all the applications come in September call. And it's support for early career researchers, and it replaces the current postdoctoral research posts. It replaces academic research funding, and then replaces project funding for early career research. The situation was perhaps confusing, and now there's just one instrument, and it's again a 4-year funding period. The aim is to identify the best talents and support their career progress towards the most demanding research positions. The main review criteria, scientific quality of research as always, and competence of the applicant in relation to her or his career stage. And eligibility is 2 to 7 years from doctorate, and there's one exception then next autumn, but not after that. And you can pay your own salary with this, have some team members. I'm not sure how big this funding exactly is. And so you can combine this funding. For instance, if a person gets ERC grants, it's been problematic to combine it with Indonesia-Finland funding in some cases, but now it's more flexible. So this was one of the aims of the reform. And we have got loads of feedback on this reform, several seminars, opportunities to comment, and of course some comments we haven't been able to adjust according to all of the comments, and I know some people are quite critical, but then it's up to the board of the Indonesia-Finland to decide this. So it looks like it's going to be like this, but not sure yet. Then academia projects. Again, the aim is internationally as high scientific standard of research as possible, scientific breakthroughs, and research collaboration with international teams, language. And of course, it needs to be scientifically high impact and socially relevant. financing mainly for the cost of the research team and direct research costs, but the principal investigator may have a part for some months salary from the project as well. It's applied by individual research teams or a consortia of teams, 2 or more. And the applicant needs to be more advanced as in the previously introduced instrument. The third bullet might be a bit outdated now because of the change in the academic research level funding. So yeah, maybe need to put that. And again, applicants must have a close connection with Finland since the funding is granted to a Finnish research organization. Then again, back to the develop program. Unfortunately, I don't have much more to say about it. About the future. 3 years ago, when I attended the previous seminar, which was very rewarding too, we then had a call coming on, and it was a joy to tell about that. And I noticed one project having Indonesia in the research plan was funded in that call. And in all of them, since 2010 perhaps, there have been like 6-7 projects involving Indonesia, mainly either bilateral or Indonesia is one of the comparison countries. But at the moment, we don't have knowledge about the next call. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is reviewing its own strategy and need for instruments. So only after that we start negotiations. Yes, and also I wanted to mention that many of these projects are somehow related to biosciences, environmental issues, most of the funded projects. Okay, I'm going to end my presentation. It's a lot of links to our website, of course, about all of the instruments, but also introducing the research funded by us at the moment. And then I added this research website, which nowadays has this, there used to be a separate portal for checking if there are foundation open calls from Finnish foundations, and now it has been transferred to this research site. Much of the information is unfortunately in Finnish, and some of the foundations may have the limitations that you have to be a Finnish national. You know, they are free to define it as they wish. So it might be not so easy to find where everyone can apply, but I'm sure if the foundation has any information in English, then it's probably a freer policy and you can always ask. And then finally, some more links to Academy of Finland website. Thank you. And,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Johanna. So again, Q&A sessions. Do we have any questions now to Johanna? Yes, Prof. Marco.
Yeah, maybe I should just make sure that the academic funding is available for every researcher working in Finland. So if you are Indonesian, you can still apply all academic funding. It's very competitive, so it's not easy to get, but there are no limitations.
yes, thank you, Michael, for that. It's just like that. So there's no, we don't check the nationality of the applicants. It's the connection to the Finnish research site that is crucial. Yes.
It's really good to know.
Be encouraging.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I checked the so.
And-
Indonesian, I mean, for statistical research, we collect the information. information.
Mhm.
So
Also,
it
I am
has happened.
also looking forward to the result of the discussion for develop programs by the Ulko Ministerium.
Yes.
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think they have funded, I'm not quite sure, but I think they have funded a bigger part. We also fund that both together, but a bigger part has gone. Then of course the Finnish National Agency for Education, I'm not quite sure of their policy. I think nowadays they want to higher education institutions, for instance, 1 year to have collaboration with Asian partners. Then it's up to the higher education institution define which countries it chooses, and then it can use the money from the national agency. Usually they go to the postgraduate level, and Academy of Finland only funds research from above the doctors.
I can comment that this knowledge in what is the name of the program? Knowledge Finland or something like that. Anyway, it's meant for education, but it's a Finnish funding for collaboration between basically any country, and also that kind of funding with professor cities. So it's mainly for researcher and student exchange. And it's especially said that most of the money should be used for exchange. And that is not extremely competitive. It's in principle between institutions, but it is still very much between individuals. So that's one possibility if you have already kind of a idea for the collaboration. It's mainly for education, but of course, if you educate PhDs, it's really research. That is one possibility. The money is not very big, but it's at least something that you can start with.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're welcome to send any questions. Email something, so you are not.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Johanna, for the session. Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. So yeah, that's the end of the first session today. Keynote speaker. Thank you once again for the speakers, Marco, Prof. Siti.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
So hello everyone, and I would also like to welcome the panelist who is present in person, Professor Teemu Teeri, to here with me. I don't know where you want to sit. So maybe we're here. Okay. And I would also like to introduce the whole panel. So again, we have Professor Teemu Teeri from Department of Agricultural Sciences, University of Helsinki, Finland. And then we should have, hopefully it works, through conference call Acting Director Tri Sundaniri from Research and Innovation Licensing Government and Scientific Authority, not the National Research and Innovation Agency, Indonesia. And also through conference call, University docent Imam Santonoso from Institute of Technology, Bandung, Indonesia. So welcome all. And before we start our discussion, I would like to ask you, panelists, to briefly present about your strategies in building collaboration between Indonesia and Finland, like your insights on the topic.
Okay, thank you very much. I will just say a couple of words from where I come from. University of Helsinki, of course. I am professor in plant breeding. My background is not in plant breeding, but rather in plant molecular biology. That is called maybe plant biotechnology nowadays. I had a chance to do my PhD in University of Ghent in Belgium at the time when gene transfer was very new topic. So that's kind of my dearest specialty. Coming to Helsinki, after that, I've been working with flower development. If you walk outside and see our greenhouses, you will see lots of Gerbera flowers. They are from our group. And also started to study secondary metabolism, particularly polyketides, which then led me also to investigate conifer species. There is an enzymatic connection between flowers and conifer trees. But about research collaboration, I'm afraid I will say only something very general, and I hope it's not trivial. Research collaboration, of course, needs two components. It needs people and it needs funding. And connecting people is basically random, but you can promote connecting people, of course. And maybe now at this time it's sort of very clear to sort of recognize what we have lost during the 2 years of COVID, when everything has been remote. It's possible to listen to talks and seminars through remotely through Zoom. That's not a problem at all. But what we've been sort of completely missing is the way how to connect with people. There are breakout rooms in Zoom, of course, but it's not the same as going for lunch and for dinner with your colleagues and really meeting people. Also the same when you're inviting speakers. If you invite them to speak in Zoom, you don't really meet them. So hopefully this now is over and we can sort of continue in connecting. Funding, of course, then is the other part. Funding, like we heard from the representative of Academy of Finland, the effective funding is based on excellence always. But maybe in sort of promoting for collaborations like between two countries like Indonesia and Finland in this case, maybe there should be some special funding to start, which is kind of governmental decision on where to go. So if we think about this particular topic, Finland, Indonesia, we need to sort of think what would be then the of course the big questions of our common themes like agriculture, production, health, also environment. But basically the sort of working collaboration has to sort of start from common interest of the researchers, so those should be defined. And again, this is sort of based on people meeting each other. Technology transfer is an important part that comes also aside, but also education is an important part. It doesn't always have to be research projects, but just simply training, like I'm a university person, getting students from abroad promoted by different ways is a way to connect. So bottom up or top down, I really sort of, I'm a bottom up person. Like I think that everything should sort of start from interests of the research groups, and the themes should be developed bottom up. But maybe some part of the funding would be top down, particularly to sort of start and initiate collaborations that would then, if they go well, be automatically kind of long term, which is then defined on the funding possibilities, which is then defined by the success of the collaboration. Eva, don't have in at this point.
Thank you for your insights, and you definitely mentioned the main key elements, like first of all, funding, making everything possible, and the people who are actually doing the research and collaboration and mutual interest, so the research topic you share. And then I think I have at least 3 Sundaniri in the conference call. So I would like to ask if you could give some insights how you have been, maybe first of all telling if you could tell us something about your research, what are your topics and so on, and how you have been building collaboration between Indonesia and Finland, or collaboration in general. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. Good afternoon, Helsinki. How are you there? I'm trying to connect with you guys in Helsinki, like what already mentioned by Prof. Temo. It's not easy to connect with people, especially during this pandemic situation. My name is Tri. Currently, I am the acting director for Management of Research and Innovation Permits and Scientific Authority from the National Research and Innovation Agency. Actually, my background is not a scientist nor researchers. I'm a board bureaucrat. I'm sorry to say. But it's really great honor for me to, be invited in this joint seminar, Indonesia and Finland. And I think this is my second great chance to, involve with this kind of activities. So actually, I prepared the slide, but I noticed that I only have 5 minutes. So I don't know whether I could just give briefly. If it's okay, Johanna, I would be quick.
Yes, you can continue. Okay. It's a kind of a technical issue here, but it's fine now.
Is my slide is already displayed or not?
See your slide, but it's not in the presentation mode. But you can manually work through it. I think it's fine.
Okay. I don't know. I just stopped the screen because I don't know. It's a bit a technical problem here. So I just say the sentence here. So answering the theme of the how we could have strategies and what is the challenges to have a long-term collaboration on research between Indonesia and Finland. Actually, in my slide I have at least 3 strategies. So first is what is important is to have the legal framework, of course, because in that document you can write what you are going to do with your partners, what the scope of collaboration, etc., etc. And this is actually work in some extent in my experiences when I responsible for handling the international collaborations, because this paper is important. But the most important things how we are going to follow up and implement that what we already write in the document. And basically, usually in the paper, we mention the scope or the areas of the research collaborations. And that's why we need to know what is the research priorities or research agenda in a certain country that we would like to have collaboration. So, for example, in Indonesia, we have like long-term research priorities, and now in BRIN, this is the information that I have to share, because just almost 1 year in last April, we have big changes in terms of the institutional on research and innovation. We did in the past have a ministry on research, and we have R&D institute that they are independent. But now, since last year, they all are integrated in one agency called BRIN, National Research and Innovation Agency. And now BRIN is, as agency for formulating the policy on research, as well as we are the executing. agency. We are the funding agency. So I don't know, maybe this is the only one in the world that have kind of a mixed roles on the policy and also as an executing agency. And if I may go to the slide in the organization, the structure of the organization of BRIN, because it will give us, yeah, this one, we will give us the highlight about the structure of the organization. So here on the left side, as a management, they develop the policies and also giving the program like funding for research. But here in the right side, we have research organizations. We have 12, if I'm not mistaken here, 12 research organization. And in each of the research organization, there are some research centers. So like, if I may recall, Professor Temo in the beginning, he mentioned some themes like agriculture, food, health, and environment. We do have that kind of a research organization. So I think this is a good start that actually between Indonesia and Finland, we have many things in common. So based on this, I think it's we have a big opportunity to collaborate in the future. And the last one is, beside we should have the document, we have to know the research priorities. And the last one, if we have to know the procedure, how the foreign researcher, if you want to do research in Indonesia, in my next slide, we do have like a foreign research permit. And but since this year, the procedure, you can next in until you find the foreign research permit. We have a new regulation based on this law and this decree. We implement the new regulation for research foreign permit. In the past, it was like independent permit, but now it is integrated into the research ethical clearance. So for you from Finland who would like to do research in Indonesia, you just submit the proposal, and all of the services, we do it online. You can you can go to the website. There will be information what kind of document that you have to submit. Basically, we just need the proposal, and like other countries do the ethical clearance, there is a form and etc. that we have to upload there. So yeah, Johanna, I think those three strategies that we need to take into account if you want to have a long-term collaboration on research and innovations. And the rest, I think we can talk more in the discussion. I give it back to you, Johanna. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I obviously got not doing my homework because I was asking about your research, so sorry about that. My excuse is that I had a long day yesterday. But I also would like to ask similar insights from our third panelist. Sorry, I lost your name. Imam, and nice to see you.
Yes, Hannah, I'm here.
So would you tell about your experience and or insights about collaboration?
Okay, can I share one PowerPoint? I will not talk too much because we will have a discussion later. So firstly, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Imam Santoso. So I think Mbak Windy, I call her Mbak because we have a good friend during my study in Finland. So from my title here, DSG, you know that I'm graduated from Finland. So basically, I finished my PhD 2 years ago or 3 years ago in Aalto University, and then I'm doing a postdoc in there. And then I'm go back to Indonesia, and I'm become a lecturer here. And now I become a head of one laboratory in Bandung in university. It is called Institut Teknologi Bandung. It is technological university. It is similar to Aalto University in the past. And yeah, it is very important to build collaboration. And here I want to share insight about how I build collaboration and what I have done with Aalto. So here, for example, what I've done. Before that, we have to make a good foundations between my university and Aalto University, and therefore we make an MOU or memorandum of agreements. So we already have MOU between ITB and Aalto, and last year we make a very good international course. It is a free course for students around the world, and the teacher and the lecturer is from ITB, from China, and also from Finland. And this is the example of the last publication we made. You can see from the name here, my name in the first, and you see the very Finnish name, Markus Himaki, Pekka Taskinen, Lina Hupa. Markus is from Oulu University in the north, and then also Pekka Taskinen from Aalto, and Lina Hupa from Abo Academy. So we have a good friends with Finland, ITB and Finland. So in here, I want to share with attendant here how I can make this kind of collaborations. First, yes, it is between university, but actually it is between people. I with my professor, with my friend. Therefore, we have to firstly have a good, good insight. We have to trust each other. So therefore, when I was in Finland, when I'm doing PhD, okay, I know that in the future collaboration is important. Therefore, I need to build my trust. I don't want my professor here don't trust me anymore after I graduate. And during my study, I have to show my performance, the best performance to them. So therefore, this is the first thing I have to show to Finland. I'm capable to do collaboration in the future because you know me. And then after that, I'm doing postdoc in Finland, and I go back to Indonesia. I always keep in touch with them, not only from email. And luckily that I know that Finland is very introvert people, but luckily my friends, my professor, they have Instagram. And this is very good way to build, chemistry. We not only talk about, okay, I mix this chemical, I'm heat this furnace, but sometimes I post a picture from Indonesia and just easy talk, and they kind of approach works. And then I talk, okay, next year I will have a good open international course. How do you think? Do you want to join? Oh, yes. Sometimes we chat through Instagram inbox with my colleagues in Finland. And it's, it fast respond. I don't need to open a laptop. It's just easy. Just text direct in Instagram. And after that, in order to keep in touch, and don't lose, sometimes if we don't contact our friend for a long time, it is reluctant for us to contact again, right? Therefore, I always, contact them at least one in a month, sometimes just ask silly thing, how about, how do you do? How is Corona in Finland? And then after that, I try to build events or research or visiting student once in one semester. So for example, last year I doing this collaboration in international course. Next year I will send 3 students to Aalto. Based on this MOU, Aalto will facilitate our student in Indonesia to go to Aalto University to doing research and supervised by professor in there. So this is just my simple tricks how to maintain collaborations between Indonesia and Finland. Okay, I think that's from me. Thank you very much, Johanna.
Thank you for this, and sounds to me that in order to make collaboration to happen, you need to have people and all kinds of documents that have weird abbreviations and social media even. So thank you for that. So next I would like to ask, how can we successfully conduct research in Indonesia? How have you, or how have you been helping doing it, or insights on this topic? I know we heard some of it already, but maybe in more details or interesting stories. So if Teemu can again start.
Before this morning, this was a question where I didn't really know what the point, but already from Marco's presentation in the morning, I understood that there's quite much paperwork in order to sort of get these permissions to work, without knowing really where this comes from. Could be also from the very valuable biodiversity things that are nowadays more taken care of, that they remain benefiting the country of origin. And I see heads nodding here that this probably is the reason. Because I was more thinking about common topics and meeting people. Well, people were also up here many times, but hopefully there is help in going through this paperwork and to get things going.
Thank you. So does Tri or Imam, do you want to add any insights to this question?
Yeah, just add some point. To me, research is like a science. It's a universal, and we do research because for some reason we would like to have solutions to a certain problems, and now in this era we are all connected. The problem usually not, like the COVID-19 pandemics. It's not only hit one country, but the world. So I think we can choose like the topic that are to be interested by the researchers in general. But of course, to some people or to some researcher, they would like, they prefer to have like a specific research that have different attention. But to me, doing research in a broad and common interest, global interest, and giving the solution for the global problem is something that will relatively easy to click, between the researchers in any country, not only a certain country, because it's a global problem. So everyone in every country would like to join together and do their part to be part of the solution. I just want to put that inside. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Something.
Okay, do you hear my voice clearly? Because sometimes I didn't hear from Finland, but I can hear from Ibu Tri very clearly.
Yeah, we can hear you, but I think
Okay.
they can hear us.
Okay.
There might be some sort of a lag here, turning on the mic and so on, but we can hear you.
Yes, so I just want to share about how to do or how to make a successful research in Indonesia. Actually, I'm still new in Indonesia, in Bandung. So I just maybe share, maybe this is the tips or the recipes how to do success research in Indonesia. First, we have to know what we need, and we have to know what world need. For example, currently I'm researching about the ceramics, and I research about thorium molten salt. This is hot topic. So before we doing research, we have to make sure that our topic is hot. It is needed, it is important, and it will be very impactful. And that's the first thing that we have to do before doing anything. And after that, if we know that our topic will be very impactful, not only for Indonesia, but for around the world, for Finland, and then move to the next steps. The next step is we have to capable to search for funding. It is the oil, it is the energy. If we don't have funding, we cannot buy chemical, we cannot pay our students, and therefore we have to apply for fundings. For example, from in my case, I apply to Indonesian governments, and there are a lot of fundings there. And if our proposal is very good and interesting, it will be sponsored. So that's the second step. We have to capable to search for funding, of course. And the third one, we have to ensure we have a good team. In my case, currently I do a very, I don't know, it's unique approach. I learned from Finland. In Finland, when I was taking my PhD there, I'm very close with my professor. There's like no barrier between us. We sit each other in front of, just there's no separation. We just, our table is the same. Once my laptop, my computer is in front of him, and it is very good to communicate. And he is like my friend, sometimes like my father. When I'm I demotivation or have something like that, my professor sometimes advise me, and that approach I bring to Indonesia. When I'm being like that, very close, or very, I don't know, not very nice, but become what my professor teach in Finland, and I bring that approach to Indonesia, and I have good communication with my student. And from there, I know, okay, this is good student. This is not. And they approach me, and if they approach me, it means it is from them the motivation. So it means I will get a very strong candidate to doing research, and I know which student is the best, and chemistry between me and student is built, and from there I can build a very good teamwork. So maybe that's the tips I want to share. I hope it is not confusing you. Okay.
Yes, thank you. And so it seems that comes a little bit back to what Teemu said in the beginning, that we need to have a interesting or hot topic even, and funding that makes everything possible. So, and but I would still want to kind of hear your insights. If you think there are like some strategies that could be developed, like if it would be maybe, I don't know, some kind of specific funding tool or instrument or something like that, or if there would be something that could be more like guided through, I don't know, governments or something like that. Then, or if there, how can we identify universities to do research, like those areas, maybe through the diversity of Indonesia that was mentioned, or something like that. So I don't know if I want to begin again.
Before going to that topic, I would like to say that it was sort of very nice to hear from Imam that the flat hierarchy that we have here at the universities, you see it as a benefit, and you could try to sort of import it into Indonesia. I also appreciate that lot, that we talk to each other by first names and eat at the same lunch table and so on. But strategies to build a long-term research collaboration. Of course, when we talk about funding, then us at the bench, we don't have too much to do. Of course, some of the colleagues go to funding agencies like academia, and they still remember what it is. But it is like at the bench, maybe that will help. But I will just sort of promote the idea of starting by people finding each other and making real visits, like from Finland to Indonesia, Indonesia to Finland, and then you learn about the other country and about the systems. All of this, of course, is very sort of general in finding collaborators.
Yes, thank you for that. So again, meeting people is important. So do you three have some insights about this strategy question?
Yeah. To me, the first impression is meaningful. So if you wanna make new collaborations, make sure that your first shot is successful and you give the first impression to your partner, because it will rolling out with the next collaboration and expand your network and etc. etc. It will nurturing your baby. It's like nurturing your baby. You have to give a first impression with a great result, and having a good human network collaboration is important. And of course, regarding the resources, we do need funding to do the research, especially for the long-term or multi-years research. And right now, the government of Indonesia, in BRIN, we have so many platforms. I think at least now we have 6, and we'll be at another one platform of research funding. And we have like a specific platform, like a research funding platform. And then we do have like a startup platform. We have do research for, we do have funding for exploration, getting the samples from sailing days, something like that. It's something new scheme that BRIN already created. So it's open to all, not only for researchers in BRIN, but open to all, even for the private company who would like to have a collaboration in BRIN. So because we integrate all the research institute, governmental research institute, so we have a best people there, best researchers in their expertise. We do have integrated facilities, infrastructure. So everything is here, and we do have the funding. So yeah, it's just you have to develop very good proposal, because we, to me, if I'm not mistaken, we do not lower the grade. We do maintain the quality. There is no affirmative scheme in BRIN. So we do have the resources. What we need to do is make a group of research and prepare the best research proposal to be submitted there. So I think this is from me.
Thank you. So I would like to still ask from Imam, like you mentioned earlier that you need to have a hot topic or something, and that's always helpful. So that kind of leads to opportunities. So how have you found or discovered these opportunities as a researcher, or if you can give some more tips how to know that kind of thing.
Okay, I think it is very easy for us to identify which one is hot topic. Never stop reading, never stop exploring or join a conference. Although currently we have a pandemic situation and very difficult for us to attend physically a conference, but when we have keep in touch like a conference or Zoom meeting like this, we will know, oh, what is happening in Finland, what are they doing, and And I also said, okay, in Indonesia currently we talk about nickel because we #1 nickel reserve in the world. So kind of situation like that, the conference, reading news in television, that we will find a hot topic. And for example, currently we try to reduce carbon emissions. And then, okay, Indonesia, we have thorium reserve. Finland is, Finland is nuclear country. Your power in Finland is from nuclear reactor. So it is good, okay, we have reserve, Finland have technology, and then there is USA have the funding. So that's kind of mutual interest, and also because we always connect, communicate each other, we will find a hot topic. So never stop contacting our friend, never stop reading the news in the television, never stop joining conference like this, and we will know what the hot topic is.
Yes, thank you. Again, kind of comes back to the importance of meeting people. So I don't know, maybe funding tools or whatever should allow these kind of events. I mean, not maybe this kind of event, but actual scientific conferences and meeting people and so on. So do you have any of you, the panelists, something you would like to say, what I didn't realize to ask about how to manage to build long-term research in between, or research collaboration between Indonesia and Finland?
Maybe can I add some things, Johanna?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I don't know, maybe some of you are here from Indonesia or from Finland. In Indonesia, we have a scheme that we can use to make collaboration. Funding from BRIN. Previously, it is from LPDP. I don't know, currently because a lot of changing happened, Putri, that's true. Previously, LPDP funding give us like funding to do collaboration between university. But at that time, I'm not lucky, so I don't get, but I get from another sources. There are a lot of fundings, I think from BRIN also and from LPDP. LPAD not only provide us research funding, but also they give scholarship for us to study abroad. For example, me and some of my colleagues in Aalto right now, also in Helsinki University, in Oulu, they have got funding from LPDP. So try to utilize that funding. That's from citizen for citizen of Indonesia. So, so my suggestion is, don't waste that money. Please apply. That's just my suggestion. Thank you, Johanna.
This all sort of comes down to meeting people, and that of course is the sort of the starting point. You cannot apply money before you have a project, and you cannot have a project before you have people. We've been talking about conferences and things like that, but there are also other opportunities that must be sort of remembered. And for example, as a university professor, one great opportunity is PhD defenses. I mean, who is going to be the opponent? You invite somebody who's interesting that you'd never met before, because spending then a couple of days around the defense is a sort of a big step forward in knowing. And again, this has not been possible during the Corona period, or many organizations like here in Wiki, the Wiki Plant Science Center organizes invited speakers seminars where you can sort of choose who you want to sort of contact with. And of course you can you can invite your friends, but what is more sort of what is even better and more productive is to invite somebody who you didn't know beforehand.
Yes, thank you. That is something I definitely didn't realize, and of course, very possible to do. So I would like to now ask if audience questions to panelists about this topic. they are very impressed. Oh, Marco has, great.
Yes, so everybody has here agreed that meeting people is the best way, and also especially Imam emphasized the kind of how PhD education can lead to a long-term collaboration. So my question is that how could we attract more PhD students from India to Finland? And also maybe other way around, how we could encourage our students to explore the possibilities in Indonesia.
Question, does someone from our panel want to answer that or give their insights?
I definitely agree. Can I, I don't know, can I say something? Yes, I think one of good friend of Mbak Windy, it is called Pak Muke. He graduated from University of Helsinki, almost the same with me. He doing PhD at University of Helsinki, and now he became a head of department in one of the big island in Indonesia. It is Sulawesi Island. So that's true. It is can be started from by the PhD. So when they are come back to Indonesia, I don't know, they have sense of, okay, I want to implement what I learned from Finland. And yes, that's very good starting point. And I really encourage all of my students, if you have opportunity, please go to Finland doing PhD, because after that, you will change. You will not change by, I mean, Finland will not only change you, but when you come back, you can change people and society in Indonesia. That's what I try to do in here. Thank you.
PhD project or study exchange, of course, this is very closely about money. And I think that at least in Finland, we have kind of a gap there. Academy of Finland used to sort of give funds for PhD students, and for a long time ago also, we had a sort of a saying that Finnish science is done by students. But now that has sort of completely changed, and like you heard in the morning, academy is funding only postdoc and up. And there are not very good sort of sources for PhD projects. And it's very easy to travel once you have your own money in your pocket. I mean, all PIs, researchers are approached by students from all over the world who apply to sort of make it to a PhD in your group, and usually it's not possible because there's no funds for that. You don't happen to have a project open at the moment. But those who have the money in their own pocket, who already have a sort of a grant from, for example, their own country, that opens right away the possibility, at least for an interview, and often that then leads to an agreement. So it's about money also there.
Johanna, if I may add something. Yeah, just want to share information to answer the questions on how we how we can add the number of PhD student to boost the collaboration between the two countries. And I don't know about in Finland, but in Indonesia we do have a program in the central government, and also I believe that in university they also have a certain program for that. But in BRIN, we do have a program for degree by research. It's for the postdoc students. So it is I think one channel that we can use to do that. And another thing is we also have a program for postdoctoral research assistant and many others. And in my slide, I already provide the link of the website, and it's open to all, and it's open throughout the year, so you can submit anytime. It's open for everybody. So I hope that it can, be an opportunity for Indonesia or Finnish would like to have a collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you for that info. And so it was for postdoctoral postdocs or something, so not doctoral students, really. Was it so? Yes, okay. But now we identified that there is a kind of a lack of funding for people who would come to Finland, or perhaps the other way around, to have money for making their PhD studies. So that could be one thing that we would recognize that could be developed. So does the audience have any further questions or comments?
Thank you, Johanna. I would like to ask maybe the audience here whether do you have any kind of organization for the alumni of the university, say here University of Helsinki? Do you have a kind of community organization, something like that for this alumni, and not only with Indonesian alumni, I mean Indonesian students who study here, but also any other country. And then we may have a kind of group, Indonesian alumni, maybe any other country, Malaysian or Thailand or whatever, and then becoming a kind of networking to have a kind of proposal to have research together, something like that, and then we may apply for any international funding to do the research in a certain area, something like that. I have an experience with Japanese because I graduated my PhD in Japan and also my master in Australia. It is very, very good. I mean, with Australia, I have been having this collaboration with the university more than 20 years. That's because we have a good alumni, what is it? Yeah, networking. Yeah, it seems that, okay, like Asia, I thought this morning, Asia usually also try to collect these alumni to work together for doing a certain topic of research, like we have agriculture, something like that. And also the University of Shizuoka, I visited from PhD, that's also like that. We have a community of the alumni, which is quite good to have, what is it, interdiscipline and multilateral, yeah, to have that research collaboration together to apply for any funding from Japan or from Australia and together with Indonesia, something like that. Do you have any? Yeah.
Thank you. Does someone want to say something about that?
University of Helsinki has connections with other universities. I'm not sure if I don't think they have any program money involved actually, also doing something. Really big sort of I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Yes, thank you. So I know that this kind of alumni network is maybe at least working for Finnish students, but it's mainly like after you earned your master's degrees, but maybe something like that could be developed for those who have finished their PhD and graduated. So if there are not any further comments, I think we have almost at least used our time. Yes, we have. So I would like to thank the panelists through Zoom and in person, and also the audience for discussion, and then organizers for giving me this opportunity to act as a moderator. It was the first time in my life, so thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mbak Windy.
Yes. Yeah, give applause for our first panel discussion. Again, thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, so we will start again for the second panel discussion. But before that, there will be introduction notes to Indonesian policy. So Mr. Nugo Trinugraha from the Embassy of Republic Indonesia in Helsinki will present it. The floor is yours. Okay. Uh, mm, okay. Just one moment.
Hello, a very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nugo from Indonesian Embassy. I'm responsible for information, social and cultural affairs. And to be honest, I probably lack credentials to present introductory note on Indonesian regulations and policy regarding research in Indonesia. I understand previously we had Miss Ibu Tri Sundari from BRIN, or from National Research and Innovation Agency, which is in a better capacity to explain about this. However, I'll try to present this in a nutshell about research in Indonesia. I'm not an expert on this. I'm neither an expert nor knowledgeable. You can see I'm still even using a bit old school. This is the iPad of not first, second, third, or fourth generation, but this is the lost generation iPad. So yeah, I'm not an expert. Let me start with some transformation of research institution in Indonesia. As we can see, it starts with the establishment of State Ministry of National Research in 1962 during President Soekarno era. And there has been from 66, 73, 78, and the longest probably Ministry of Research and Technology between 78 and 2014. That includes both the era of President Suharto and President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. And we probably can still recall the role the late President Habibie, or at that time Minister of Research and Technology, in setting the system for research and technology in Indonesia. And 2014, 2019 is the era of President Joko Widodo, and then probably the recent transformation, probably one of the biggest or one of the most having biggest effect. That is the establishment of National Research and Innovation Agency, and then in 2021 to split it up and then to make the National Research and Innovation Agency as a autonomous agency, which involves or pool so many research agency that previously was spread in different ministries and institutions. Now, I understand this is a critical law. Spoil you with pictures to get your attention here, and just go through different highlights of presidential era, which is most, of course, executed by Minister of Research and Technology. First, in President Sukarno era, as I mentioned before, State Ministry for National Research was established in 1962. And then at that time, Indonesia were trying to focus on maritime and air technology, while at the same time, human resources. We send many Indonesians abroad to study and aiming at producing educated and skilled human resources, engineers, skilled technicians. And one of them, as a matter of fact, is former minister and former President Baharudin Yusuf Habibie, who studied in Aachen, RWTH Aachen, in Germany. At that time, from 55 until 65, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, this is some of the highlights during President Sukarno era. And then in President Suharto era, probably one of the longest policy with emphasis. It starts with emphasis on research on Indonesian natural resources and its industry, realizing our potential back then in 1974. And then the milestone was also establishment of Agency for the Assessment and Application of Technology, or BPPT. We are very familiar with that. Badan Pengkajian dan Penerapan Teknologi in 1978. And we also witnessed development of national aviation industry, which is also spearheaded by the late President Baharudin Yusuf Habibie, the turboprop CN 235. And at that time, in 1984, also establishment of National Research Board or Dewan Riset Nasional Indonesia. Also, in some other parts, development of defense industry or PINDAT, digital communication technology, shipping, biotechnology, and so on and so forth. So it was quite a long era, and then we were trying to develop so many things at that time, trying to aim towards what's so-called lepas landas, or trying to become an industrialized nation, had been 1998 Asia financial crisis hit us. And this is quite a short era during the late President Habibie era. But then at that time, there's not so much because of this situation of political turmoil within the country. Science and Technology Project addressed merely towards job creation of agriculture and agribusinesses, and strengthening regulation on Dewan Riset Nasional, or the National Research Board, National Research Council, I must say, to connect with to better suit the National Development Plan, as well as formulation of research activities according to national needs. These are some of the highlights of the President Habibie era. And in Gus Dur, or President Abdurrahman Wahid, research also directed towards supporting national economic recovery, as well as development of suitable technology for more to research and technology. While previously we're heading towards nuclear, aviation industry, here it's more in agriculture, agribusiness. And in President Megawati era from 2001 to 2004, there was an initiative to activate and support incubate project technology grown industry, which is a good initiative, I must say. And there are also efforts to commercialize research result, which has often been an issue, taking prototypes or inventions or patents into something visible or commercially applicable. That is something that always has been an issue in Indonesia. And also to introduce research program towards to reach wider audience, the younger generations. That also part of the highlights in Megawati era. And in President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono era, there was an effort to refine National Research Board in 2005 on its role to assist minister and contribute to National Strategic Development Plan, so better connected between the National Research Council to the development plan of the government, as well as policy on researcher to publish their research in international journals. So there were more promotion for researcher, not only to research or to conduct research on or teaching academic, but also to publish more to international journal, to contribute more into international settings. As well, there was also an effort in collecting and mapping Indonesian HR in science technology, and of course, lots of development and effort to develop renewable energy, waste management system, and other also. Now we come to the slightly before the current era, or President Joko Widodo, education under the Ministry of Research and Technology at that time, 2014 and 2019. The institution, higher education, which was previously in, was then merged into the Ministry of Research and Technology. And then we also witnessed the revival of trying to develop the airplane for Indonesian aviation industry. Also, there was a policy of higher cross-subsidy in higher education to take the cap of the limit of fees or tuition fees, so that both those who are less privileged can also study in university. Also, there's also evaluation of research function utilization, publication in international journal, technological breakthrough, patents and IPR, and producing more prototypes, as well as allocation of more scholarships to students and government officials. And more recently, we understand that previously Bu Tri Sundari have already mentioned about Law 11/2019 regarding the systemic system of national research and technology, and which of course gave birth to the National Research and Innovation Agency in 2019, still together with the Ministry of Education and Research. And through that, then dissolution of several state agencies, including National Research Board in 2020, and Ministry of Research, more applicable research during the pandemic for the research effort. And also in the end, then merging Ministry of Research and Technology with the Ministry of Education and Culture. And then, of course, as a consequences, and in August 2021, it becomes an autonomous institution to conduct national research and innovation. So we are here now in the current state. And this is what I'm going to go deeper, but not very deep. And I stop with the pictures, but then since I get your attention now, I would like to go further with more fonts and statements. So here, it has been mentioned before by Ibu Tri Sundari. Is Ibu Tri Sundari still here, if I may ask? Okay, great. So then probably she will contribute to our later question and answer session, as she has better capacity to answer perhaps later questions. So yeah, Law number 11, year 2019, on National System of Science and Technology, signed on 13 August 2019, provide a general overhaul of the research and research environment in Indonesia. The objective is to build a network of science and technology and to better support the implementation of science and technology, a scientific foundation, because at that time it was seen that development policies are slightly distant from research-based, development policies are slightly distant, as we've seen, are slightly distant from research. And it was also President Joko Widodo concerned that many institutions are scattered into many different ministries and institutions. But of course, this can be a part of discussion because there are so many people. It's many debates even within the country, and hence the law number 11 year 2019 mandated an establishment of National Research and Innovation Body, the Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional (BRIN), as well as follow-up regulation, which is the Presidential Regulation number 78 2001. So as we can see now, there are two main research institutions, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, or Kemendikbudristek, which focus on research related to higher education or university research. And the other one is BRIN, which focus on innovation and applicable research. Of course, this can be also part of discussion because research can be always integrated, applicable innovation. But I mean, I'm talking to researchers here, so I'm not, so I'm like an amateur competing in Olympic Games together with other professionals. But then, yeah, of course, I would like to have your insight on this. Now, about partnership in research in Indonesia, it is, as a matter of fact, a large to establish partnerships because we understand this discussion integrating different resources, human, infrastructure, is something elemental to provide maximum and efficient performance benefits towards research. And this is what the government also truly understands, that establishing partnership is an obligation. And of course, not only with companies, with regional government, with other affiliations, but also with foreign partners, which is one of the most important partner. And partnership can be carried out with foreign partners with the obligation. There are two, I think, main elements here. And also it has been mentioned by Ibu Tri Sundari earlier. The obligation to transfer technology and the principle of free and active foreign policy. So these are two main elements that we need to be aware of in partnership. And there is also a requirement to obtain permit and ethical conduct. This is the ethical clearance conducted by Ethics Commission, which has also been previously mentioned by Ibu Tri Sundari. So research, development, assessment, and application, seen as a whole part, can be carried out by foreign science and technology institutions and partners. It requires permit from the central government, and in the process, there will be ethical by commissions, and it has to follow in accordance with Code of Ethics of respective field of study. And within the Ethics Commission itself, it consists of members of different disciplines or field of expertise and have the role to study and determine ethical conduct, as well as to evaluate. Well, as you can see, power tends to corrupt, and PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. And so, yeah, where were we? Okay, permit and ethical conduct. And now what's the obligation of foreign researcher? These are the four obligations. I think it is very common for researcher to have an understanding of this. This is probably also applicable in international setting, producing outputs that's beneficial to the host country, and in this case, Indonesia, involving and including Indonesian human resources to better increase the quality of our research and researchers, transfer of technology, as mentioned before, obliging to submit primary data, and providing proportional profit sharing. This is, of course, depends on the contractual agreement between the partners. And these are also some of things that we need to be aware of. For protection purposes, it is prohibited to transfer biodiversity material, Indonesian local specimens, social heritage, cultural and local wisdom, both in physical and digital form, as long as material can be carried out in Indonesia. And foreign researchers are also required to hand over the primary data of their research in Indonesia and proportionally share the profit from the research accordingly to the deal they have made with. The research samples that will be taken out must be completely documented before they are permitted to be taken overseas. These are links for the general procedure. I'm just going to have a snapshot of these because I think this is in Bahasa Indonesia. I understand that this probably meant to be applied by Indonesian researcher, even though they have foreign partners and then can go together in this website of ethical clearance. And then these are the pre-arrival procedures. Professor Rita have mentioned how the headache he has been dealing with. I don't know whether when the dust has been settled because of the transformation of BRIN, things are getting better. We do hopefully that. But at the moment, these are the pre-arrival procedure of foreign research permit. You can find this also in this website. ffbrin.go.id. Ibu Trisundari, if you are still here, please correct me if something is outdated or need to be updated. The pre-arrival procedures, and I don't want to put you into another hassle because there is another post-arrival procedures of foreign research, and let that problem be in Indonesia when you have already got all your permit. But we can assure you that there is the spirit of these cooperation partnership that Indonesian will see more research conducted in Indonesia. We have a vast amount of sources. We have biodiversity. We have experts, researchers, good human resources, and these probably would then later help us to facilitate all the hassle that you have to go through in the beginning, but then you will have an excellent research outcome. So probably that concludes my introductory note today. I would like to take questions. Perhaps, are we running out of time? Do we still have time? Great. So just one question. I'm happy to hear that. Yes, Professor.
Yes, thank you very much for your nice presentation. No need to be ashamed or anything. This research permit. I understand that it's it's needed and we have to apply it, and the process should now be easier. But there is also a question: how long it's valid once I have got it? Is it valid for 2 years, half a year?
Yeah, that's a good technical question. Perhaps Professor Siti Subandia, would you like to Thank you so much. I think now I'm facilitating the discussion among researchers because you know it better in the field.
Yeah, in my experiences applying for foreign research permission, 1 year, but it can be extended in a certain reason.
Okay, so will the extending be easier than applying the actual permit?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think then in that case it is also tied to the visa itself, yeah, Professor, because from what I understand, visa also 1 year for 6 months, 1 year, and 2 years for foreign research. You have the experience before, so let's exchange our notes or exchange our views on this. But thank you, Professor Siti Subandia, for helping me out with the technical question. So I guess that concludes the introductory note, and now we would like to proceed to the panel discussion.
Yeah, okay. So The panel discussion now is the second one, basically the same theme, which is strategies and challenges to maintain long-term research collaboration between Indonesia and Finland in the industrial perspective. So it will be an hour panel, almost an hour panel discussion with panelists from the industry, and each panelist will have short introduction about the topic for about 5 minutes. And moderator will ask some question. Also, it can be also for audience. Yes, Pak Nugo. Yes. And the moderator will be Mr. Nugo Trinugraha from the Embassy of Republic Indonesia in Helsinki. And there will be 4 panelists. So the first panelist will be Christopher Palmberg from Developing Market Platform from Business Finland, and he will join online. And the next is Elsa Newman from Fin Partnership, from Finnish Foreign Ministry support for commercial project in the developing countries. The third one will be Windy Muziasari, CEO of Resistomap EU from Finland, in Finland. And Nina Jacobi from Business Finland in Jakarta. Yep. So let's start the panel discussion. Oh, the microphone ini, Pak.
Yes. So thank you so much, Mr. Christopher Palmberg, Ms. Nina Jacobi, Ms. Elsa Newman, Ms. Windy Muziasari. Thank you so much for joining us today in the session, the panel discussion. In the panel discussion about long-term strategy. Let me just check. Panel discussion, strategies and challenges to maintain long-term research collaborations between Indonesia and Finland from industry perspective. We have had earlier strategies and challenges to maintain long-term research collaborations, but from academia perspective. Now we have 4 experts here, experienced in their respective fields, which would like to share, who would like to share their views, their experience in regarding this matter. And so I would like to start with inviting each panelist to introduce themselves, also provide a brief introduction, and also to give a 5-minute presentation regarding the issue. So I would like to invite first with Mr. Christopher Palmberg, Senior Advisor, Development Market Platform, or DevPlat funding from Business Finland. He joined us with the conference call from Zoom. Good afternoon, Mr. Christopher Palmberg.
Good afternoon. Hope you can hear my voice clearly.
Yes, your voice is clear.
Okay, perfect. Yes, well, thanks for having me, first of all, and thanks for all the previous presentations and speakers. I think they were really insightful and exciting. I do actually have some slides. If you can get them on the screen, that would be great. But while doing that, so my name is Christopher Palmberg. Indeed, I'm sorry for not being there physically. It seems that my colleague Nina is there physically, even though she should live in Indonesia, and I'm here virtually, even though I live in Espoo. So that's a bit of a paradox. But I'm sorry, my day was such that I just simply couldn't make it due to other virtual meetings. So I'm virtually here as well. But yes, indeed. So my name is Christopher Palmberg, and I'm heading what's called a Developing Markets Platform. I do have a research background. I have a PhD in industrial dynamics and management. So I'm kind of into this discussion also from my previous life as a researcher. Maybe just a few words. First of all, so Business Finland is perhaps not known to all of you. We are the main public agency in Finland implementing innovation, industrial, trade policies. And one significant part is also the funding work. So we work more towards company-related funding. So we are the main funder of company-driven research, development, innovation projects, but we can also fund research as part of company networks, etc. So that is kind of the link we have to the research part. And then, of course, we do have a global network. So we have people in 42 different countries, Nina Jakobi being one of them in Indonesia. So that's also really interesting. I had a few slides. I am not sure if you can get them out. I can also just skip the slides if needed. I thought it could be more concrete if I have some slides.
Is it possible for the technical team to help with the slides?
Or I can share them from here actually also. I can easily share from here. Let's see.
Yes, please. That if that can be.
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful.
I can do it. Can you see the slides now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just very briefly, but first of all, I said something about Business Finland. I'm heading what's called the Developing Markets Platform, and it's a joint, I would say, service platform towards companies or other Finnish entities who are interested in entering developing markets. And we do this together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So it's like an attempt to blend actually some other funding instruments and other activities of the ministry with Business Finland services. So that is kind of the key that we do. And of course, we cover quite a broad set of countries. Our focus is more on, I would say, East Africa, South Africa, also Vietnam, but we also do work in Indonesia and India as well. So because we have offices in these places, so that is how we kind of tend to focus. What we do, the background actually, and this goes a bit to the topic of this panel, is that we have since 2015 had a kind of a funding program also, which has funded research, development, innovation projects to many of these countries, including some projects to Indonesia. And the platform that I'm heading right now is essentially a kind of a continuation of those experiences from this funding program. And I would say some of the challenges that we kind of experienced is that we managed to activate a lot of Finnish companies and also research groups through funding. But then it seems that many of the projects were a bit too kind of locally, or I would say Finnish oriented, meaning locally coming from Finland. So it has been quite of a challenge to really incentivize Finnish researchers and companies to collaborate with partners in the target market. So that has been one challenge that we have seen. I think also the role that certain other stakeholders can play in research collaborations, for example, the NGOs, hasn't really been fully utilized. And I'm not so knowledgeable about Indonesia myself, but I know that you also have many NGOs there who are working on local issues, challenges, etc. So that is kind of an interesting avenue, I think, also to consider. And then there is also a challenge to get Finnish companies really into these big projects funded by, for example, development banks. So I think that is another topic that somehow we should address. But anyway, this was the kind of background to this platform that I'm heading currently. So we took some lessons from this work. And what we offer now, if you see the next slide, yeah, I don't know, I have two slides here. So yeah, now we have the same one. So what we offer now concretely are in a way three areas of services. So we have a rather interesting funding model, first of all, where we actually pool Business Finland funding for research, development, innovation projects with funding from the development policy area of the ministry. And that funding can also help local partners to join the projects. And I'll say something more about this because I think it's of direct relevance to you. Then, as I mentioned, we also have now stepped up our activities to try to help Finnish companies as well as research organizations to gain access to these bigger projects and opportunities provided by the international financial institutions. For example, in Asia, Southeast Asia, there's the Asian Development Bank. And right now we are having discussions with the Asian Development Bank Venture Fund, which is a kind of a startup fund for startup companies who are interested in Southeast Asian markets. And then the third area relates to the UN system and trying to get Finnish companies to become more involved also in UN kind of programs and activities and operations through procurement. So those are the three areas. But just a few more words on the funding, and if you take the next slide. So, and I think this is really interesting for you, I hope, because this is a way to facilitate research collaboration concretely. So what we can do through this platform that I'm heading is that we can, in cases where there is a Finnish company or a Finnish research organization working together with companies, and if there is kind of a clear market opportunity or a need that could be addressed, and if the company or the research consortia has identified local partners and this kind of idea and the project is in line with the sustainable development goals, then we can, on top of Business Finland regular funding, also provide this additional grant to the Finnish entities, who then is earmarked for local partners to join the project. So that means essentially that we can kind of from Finland provide both project ideas and collaboration opportunities through this additional funding. And then there is also this kind of new funding modularity or collaboration with Fin partnership, so that if a Finnish company pursues research and innovation in Indonesia and has this local partner and has this local funding as well through Business Finland, then Fin partnership can also, according to certain criteria, provide funding for a Finnish research organization or NGO who is supporting the company locally, for example, in Indonesia. So that is also a new funding modality. Then just the last slide, that's more of a commercial highlight. So actually right now we have a research funding call launched. The deadline is 16th of May. And that is really targeting research groups who have an understanding and connections in developing markets. And if that's the case, then this call is all about funding the research organizations to develop a consortia with other partners, with companies and also local partners. So again, have a look at this. This is totally applicable also to the Indonesian case. So hopefully this could generate some activities, but I'll stop here. I took too much time, so I'll elaborate on some of the points later. So thanks a lot for me.
Thank you, Mr. Christopher Palmberg, for the insight. Now we have already got an idea of what we need to take care of, what we need to see for innovation funding for local and co-creation. So allow me now to move to Ms. Nina Jacobi from Senior Advisor from Business Finland Jakarta, also to provide, to introduce herself again and provide the presentation related to strategies and building long-term research and collaboration. Please, Nina.
Thank you, Nuno. Yes, greetings from Jakarta around yesterday. And don't check, this is really far to Finland. I want to get back home. I've been in Jakarta office for Business Finland for a year now. And for Business Finland, I've been working for almost 7 years, mainly in headquarters. So my background is export promotion, as well as funding what Business Finland does. First part of my presentation was already done by my colleague Christopher, explaining what Business Finland does in the funding field. Just to repeat a little bit of that, it is mostly what we do is R&D funding for companies, but as Christopher said, in a collaboration also there's often academia with the group. So this is what happens very often. Have been looking a year now from Indonesia point of view. I like the collaboration in industry between Finland and Indonesia. I ran into the question that building really long-term relationship, you have to look at academia, you have to look at universities and have them collaborate and have them share their experiences and create something together. Now, bringing from here something directly that fits perfectly in the Indonesian context happens, but rare. So we need to work like a long-term plans together. So what we've been looking, of course, all the institutions that's been approaching us from Finland side. We've been looking for partners for them in Indonesia together with our embassy, and vice versa a little bit, of course, too. Personally, I've been involved lately. We have had good relationship with ITS in University Surabaya. I visited them last week actually, and had a really good discussions over how can I say, everything from students for postgraduates, even to industrial collaboration and all together. Because not long ago, a couple of months ago, a new 5G Experience Center of telecommunication was established at ITS, and Finnish company Nokia is very much involved in that. And what we heard yesterday, not last week, was that they are planning to open a telecommunication faculty again after like 20 years of us not having it, which was very happy. So that's a really good solid base for collaboration. Finnish academia, Finnish companies, Indonesian academia, and adding Indonesian industry there too. And not that just telecommunication, we talk about other areas, what they are involved too. So this is just, wanting to bring you an experience, what we have had, I have had so far. So really happy to collaborate with any other university in Indonesia. So yeah, this was all I had at the moment in mind. So looking forward to
emphasize on government, industry, and academia also needs to collaborate together. Not only academia between academia, industry to industry, but three of them: industry, government. So now I would like to invite Ms. Elsa Newman, is project advisor from Fin Partnership, Finnish Foreign Ministry support for commercial projects in developing countries. Ms. Elsa Newman, I would like you to provide the presentation and introduce yourself, of course, and then provide the presentation related to this to build long-term research collaboration between Indonesia and Finland. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Elsa Newman, and I work as a program officer at In Partnership. And I'm pretty new in our team. I started less than a month ago, so I'm really new in the team. I have, the presentation is already there. So can I put the next slide already? So we are supporting commercial projects in developing countries. Can we put the next slide? Our projects should have a commercial focus, like they should be commercially profitable, but also they should have always like development impact in the target countries. So the project should have like one of the sustainable development goals that are like named by United Nations, and our focus is number 5 and 8, so gender equality and work and economic growth. Next, please. Fin Partnership is funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland and managed by FinFund organization. Our services are free, and our mission is to build a better world through business partnerships. Next, please. Our main services are business partnership support and matchmaking service, but we are also giving information and guidance. for the companies who want to establish a business in developing countries. More business partnership support and making service. So business partnership support. Indonesia is actually second most popular target country 2021. So it's really a great result, and we're really happy to collaborate with Indonesia. In total, we did projects in 2021, and total support granted was 3 million euros. So that's like the highlights of 2021. I hope there will be even more collaboration with Indonesia in the future. Next, please. Yeah, so the main idea is that the companies should have a clear establishment goal in the developing countries. So they are aiming at building long-term business partnership in developing country. There are different forms of doing that, and the most common ones are creating a joint venture or subsidiary company in the developing country, or it can be also subcontracting, franchising, licensing, also importing. There are also some other options like piloting with the ODA eligible organization. So for example, European Union or another United Nations agencies. And also the last one that we have is actually a little bit relating to this research point of view too. It's a little bit what Christopher also mentioned, that the applicant can also kind of support another company that is applying for business partnership support. So that's more like providing the training or workshops in the developing countries. So that's one option too. Next, please. The amount of support is maximum 400,000 euros. And if the project falls under the minimum support, then it's up to 200,000 euros. That's mainly everything about this slide. Briefly, you can click once more so that it opens once more, please. Yes, so there are basically 6 different phases that we are supporting. Partner identification, project study, business plan, analyzing environmental and social impacts, piloting technologies, and training. And then we have this new phase in our new rules that you can also develop an existing business in the target country. So all these phases are supported by the finance that we are providing. Yes, next please. And the amount of coverage depends on the country, target country. So we are giving support to basically all the developing countries, and the percentage depends on the DAC level of the country. So for example, Indonesia is from 50% to 85% depending on the type of the applicant, whether it's a company, whether it's an organization, or whether it's a support project. Next, please. Here's a little bit list of what we are covering, but the main idea is that all the costs that are relating to traveling to the target country, doing the necessary things there to start a project. What we are not supporting is client meetings or any marketing costs. So we are not supporting kind of exporting a product or service. Who can apply for support is mainly a company, but it can be also an organization. So as we have here a research point of view, it can be also a research institution or university that can apply. It can be also a foreign company, but the ownership has to be at least 20% by Finnish company. It can be also a consortium of several companies or organizations, and then there are two types of doing that. So Fin partners, business partnership support, or business freelance financing. And this is already what I a little bit mentioned, that educational institutions or research institution can also apply. They can be the applicant itself, or they can support another company for doing business in developing country. Briefly the process, you can send the application anytime. We are analyzing the applications and sending to the Foreign Ministry of Finland, and they are making the decision. about the matchmaking service. We have around 500 companies in 70 countries that are looking for Finnish business partners. So it's a great way to find a business partner through this platform. It's all the time So if you find a partner in our matchmaking search, then we can arrange a digital meeting so the partners can meet online and start doing business. And we have all doing business with Finland seminars abroad. Now a little bit less, but hopefully more in the future. There we also introduce a Finnish business environment and talk about different business partner possibilities. We have also SDG boosters, so Sustainable Development Goals boosters. Currently, there is one relating to Kenya and Tanzania, if I remember correctly. My colleagues are organizing it. And then it has different themes, like now it's education and healthcare and water solutions. So those are also a great way to create solution to pre-identified needs in the target country. Then a little bit about information and guidance that we give. And most importantly, to introduce our application workshop that is organized each month. And we are giving advice. If you are planning to start business in developing country, then this is a great platform to learn about it and ask questions of how you should approach this. And this is our small team. We are 8 people. And we are mainly working with the business partnership support, and some of us are also working with the matchmaking projects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elsa. So we have heard about eligible project types and amounts and what to be covered, and that the project should aim at long-term partnership in developing countries. That's one of the most important elements that we should be aware of. Now, I would like to move now to Ms. Windy Muziasari from Resistomap. Ms. Windy is the founder and CEO of Resistomap OU. So, Windy, please introduce yourself and proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew. Hello, everyone. So I'm Windy, founder and CEO of Resistomap. I'm here actually is kind of a good example to show that the industry in Finland, it's a Finnish company who received Fin partnership Finland Develop, and also in a project in Indonesia. That's why I get to know also Business Finland in Jakarta. And just to mention, indeed the project, the process is real, so it can be done, and we received the funding, it really helps a lot for the company point of view, because especially if you are like early stage company, I mean, I'm not saying it's only for early stage company, but also for any stage of company, because when they are doing R&D, they usually need research. Research is always part of any industry, to my knowledge, experience, and it's very important, especially if our, let's say, innovation will be used in the emerging countries. So having testing the innovation, or even together, innovate together, like building the technology together with the partner, especially in my case of working in Indonesia, is really helpful a lot. Because, for example, we did R&D with the Business Finland grant, which is usually, of course, done research here in Finland. We collaborate with Finnish partner, like with Helsinki University, and then with Hospital University HUS, and also with City of Helsinki, for example. In the country, in our city, and it's a bit easy for them to think that how we can test the technology in other country, and I choose Indonesia. Then I learned from Fin Partnership, for example, that because even I'm in Indonesia, but being living outside of Indonesia for so long, it's not so easy to find a partner in Indonesia. I can communicate in Bahasa, but I don't know much anything about how the Indonesian regulation and the permit process and everything. So it is really nice to have in this Fin Partnership grant to test, to identify the partner, right? If you remember, like in Elsa's presentation, there's the stage where you can use to identify the partner. There actually I used to to identify the partner in a governmental research institute, in Indonesia, and also in academia, and also in industry. So it's really good to do that. And then it's really nice that because we don't know whether the project can be done or not, right? So the risk is really high. So having kind of the 70% fund to support our initiation to do research or like long-term collaboration in Indonesia is really, really nice. It's helping a lot in the budget, of course. And I believe also this you can do also this together with the academia, especially if it's about research. And then another stage actually, we do receive develop funding. So it's recently, actually this January, is really nice. Even though the develop funding that we receive is not for Indonesia, because we already received from Fin Partnership, so I cannot use all the money. And we use it for a project in Thailand and Nepal. This means like to show that also the develop funding also can be used, of course, in Indonesia, as Nina and Christopher mentioned, because it's as long as in emerging countries, right? And to my knowledge, actually, Indonesia is one of the priority, actually, right? At least in the website, it's still written there. but the idea is that I mean, there's another option also where you can use this funding to do your research collaboration, and that's actually how we collaborate with University of Gajah Mada, and this with using this available funding. So I just want to mention that it also can be done together with the industry. So no need research is not necessarily from academia with academia, but it's like Mr. Hugo mentioned, it's nice when you collaborate academia, industry, and the government. And basically that's all. And maybe from my side later on is more like my real experience to use all this funding opportunity and then to do research long-term collaboration in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It is real now. We see the connection between the facilitating institutions. Previously, we had discussion with from academia perspective, and now we have the real example of how the collaboration work, and now we are discussing how to make it long, not um, for now, but also to have a long-term effect between industry and the issue. The key issue is to collaborate with academia as well. Now, I would like to seek from the panelists, how can we identify the opportunities to build long-term research in Indonesia? Well, previously we were talking about the strategies, we talk about how to get funding, do's and don'ts, learning from the best practices, but how can we identify the opportunities? Perhaps I would like to start with Wendy. When you had when you're setting up the company, perhaps this is also making opportunities and realizing opportunities with the help of facilitating institution. Please, Wendy.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, identify the strategy. I think is like first, maybe in my opinion, is like network, right? Having a good network is very important because this is one of the reasons also I choose Indonesia because I feel more comfortable. I should have a network in Indonesia already. So even though, as I mentioned, even I don't know like Indonesia, but having my background, knowing a lot of some network in Indonesia, then I think that it's more feasible to be done. And then first network and through network also is actually I learned about opportunity to get this support because this opportunity to know the potential support you have is usually not so feasible for others. Even though as I know that and Business Finland try their best to announce, right? They have this funding, use the funding, but sometimes if you never search to that direction, you would never know. So in my case, also only when I moved to academia that I learned about this opportunity, and that's what I would recommend. Maybe like I mean, from my side is about the network and finding the opportunities, how to make it work. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. So network and opportunity are the two keywords in how we identify the opportunities to build long-term research in Indonesia. But perhaps if another panelist would like to add, especially from the facilitating institution, the Business Finland, Fin Partnership.
Thank you. I'm thinking, I listen to you and I fully agree with you. My role usually in Business Finland, in our global network, which I'm representing here, is find where to start from the Finnish companies. What they come to us and say, hey, I think there is a possibility for me in Indonesia, and then we discuss what they want, and we naturally share whatever we have networking, but often it's also our job to find them a person who starts the network with them, and that's how it usually, like in real life, goes. We are a facilitator in that sense. Well, long term, if you think, well, it starts small steps, but you have to have the vision, and you have to have time. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. And let me know. I mean, it's not easy anywhere, but in Indonesia, it takes a little bit of time. but you'll get there eventually. So that's about my ideas for that.
Thank you, Nina. Mr. Christopher Palmberg, perhaps you would like to add anything to what has Nina said, or perhaps from your experience in finding opportunities to create long-term research collaboration or project?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for Nina's comments. And I think the basis, of course, you have networks, and you have matchmaking opportunities, and you have trust between players, and that is really important. And that kind of job Nina and her colleagues are doing in Indonesia, and we are doing it back here. But maybe one comment is also that I think we should take start from the real needs and the challenges, rather than, let's say, the technological thematic areas, which are quite prominent in these different, let's say, ministerial memorandum of understanding. So I think we should somehow move beyond just defining kind of technological areas like biotech, nanotech, whatever, and instead kind of jointly identify societal challenges which can be solved by different scientific technological domains. So start from those, and then kind of develop kind of longer term joint strategies. Okay, what are the, let's say, the sustainable development goals or sustainable challenges that you see in Indonesia? How can we work together towards addressing those? And then that kind of, in a way, opens up the imagination much more than kind of defining certain technology areas, which I think has been far too common in science and technology policy and science and technology policy collaboration in the past. So maybe that is one point. And also here I would like to again highlight the role of other kinds of stakeholders. So I think like Wendy also kind of suggested that research doesn't only happen of course in academia, nor does it only happen between academia and industry, but it also happens with between research and society, or for example, NGOs can play a really important role as well. You have a lot of new partners and stakeholders in the game, which can provide funding, provide grassroots ideas for needs in society. So kind of taking more of a societal or challenge-based approach, I think could be like one issue. And then apart from that, of course, I think what would also be important is to, and I know that that's happening also, but try to also locally, for example, collaboration between Business Finland and the ministry and the embassy and the Ministry of Education and so on, and make kind of inventories of all possible ongoing activities between Finland and Indonesia from this broader viewpoint to identify potential platforms to draw in researchers. I think that would be important. I think we know a bit too little about, for example, what is happening in development policy, from a Finnish viewpoint in Indonesia. What kind of big projects are the big banks funding there, etc. So kind of broaden it a bit, and looking at all various activities which could connect Finnish and Indonesian researchers. And I think the same goes for us here in Finland. We should be better at also kind of linking up with what we do. What does the Academy of Finland do? I know that they had a program on developing countries I think it was focused quite a lot on India, but also here back in Finland, we should kind of put together what we do and be better at kind of linking different things. And then I really agree also with the previous speakers and also the point by Imam earlier that it matters really in the end that people meet. So we need to kind of link up different hubs of entrepreneurs and researchers and make those dialogues happen. So I think that is also the role of funding agencies, not only to arrange kind of joint funding calls, but also to just make people connect. And I think that's why this funding I mentioned, this co-creation funding, is interesting, because that is really for developing ideas for consortia between countries. So I want to kind of highlight that as well again. So, but some additional ideas, I think, from my part.
Thank you, Christopher. I think, yeah, that's a good addition to what we had before. Actors are governments, industry, academia, but then NGO, who probably better a first-hand experience of what is happening in the society, especially in jointly identifying the social challenges in order to identify the research that will serve or solve the problems in the society. And you mentioned about also that it has to be tailored with sustainable development goals. I think we need to go back to what Ms. Elsa Newman has mentioned earlier, that long-term partnerships in developing countries also need to address this. And could you please add something to that, Ms. Elsa Newman? Because this is also relevant to what has been said earlier by Christopher.
Well, yeah, I would like to just say that I also agree that partner identification is one of the main things to start a business in Indonesia. So it's great that we are supporting that phase, for example, but also, for example, project plan development and like analyzing the social and environmental impacts in the country. So I don't know if I have anything to add to what Christopher said, but that is very important point that it should be considered. But what I would like to mention is that, for example, this matchmaking service is a great way to find a partner. For example, there could be an Indonesian partner who is looking for a Finnish company to be a partner. So that would be a great path also to start a business. I'm not sure, is there a similar platform also in Business Finland? But I remember there is something similar that you are kind of also matching. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, in any way, I think that's also a great path to start a business. But the hard part is that the company or the organization has to do it basically by themselves to identify the partner and so. But we are supporting and giving advice as much as we can.
Thank you, Elsa. I think that connects to what Christopher earlier mentioned about not only funding, but also connecting people. And this is the power of network and opportunities that has been mentioned also earlier by Wendy. Now, perhaps also we would like to know, this is related to what we had before in introductory note and how to successfully conduct research in Indonesia. Perhaps this would be better this question would be better addressed to Wendy from your experience, perhaps. But of course, Christopher, Nina, and Elsa, if you would like to add anything to this on how to successfully conduct research in Indonesia, probably from your experience, from your partner's experience, or from an institution that has joined the funding. Wendy, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we've been discussed a lot about this, how to conduct successfully research in Indonesia. I think first of all, again, it's like indeed been mentioned by Marco Profsiti, or even in the previous panelists, the important trust of the partner and like finding a good partner. I think first of all is the most important, because indeed like and that's why the identification of partner is really important. It doesn't matter even you know already, but making collaboration is not just I know the person. It's more deeper than just knowing the person. And I like to mention, I like that also in the previous panelists there mentioned that it's about, when Ima mentioned collaboration is not between institution to institution, but actually it's between people and people. So get the most successful. And I believe that the first actually very technical to make this work. I know it's not very trivial, but in Finland it's common if you communicate through WhatsApp. But I learned that in Indonesia, WhatsApp is everything. Interestingly, doesn't matter your governmental, doesn't matter your academician, business, senior, junior. It's just crazy, like everything through WhatsApp, including sending important documents. And but it's like when you're sending this in through WhatsApp, it's everything just goes so fast. You can get reply fast, you can get okay, confirmation, information, everything so fast, which is new. Even though I'm Indonesian myself, but living in Finland, you know, I'm surprised that it's something very important to do that. And yeah, and this is very first thing. And of course, I think Professor Marco mentioned this in the very beginning, to be flexible, because knowing two different culture, Finland turned to be really quite strict, and not strict, very, when someone and usually on time also, used to remind the people, someone already agree, then they disagree, unless if something happened to mention. In Indonesia, things can change in the last minute, and then suddenly you are already there, but then things are cancelled just last minute like that. So it's coming from normal culture that everything usually agreed as it is, and suddenly that things can change. It's a bit usually, you know, like stressful. So being flexible is one of the key points to get successful research in Indonesia, because then you don't too stressful and you can enjoy still collaborate with the team, because it's not that your partner not nice can somehow situation in Indonesia so complex, not as in Finland. We're talking about 160 million people, and we're talking about you know, different region, different culture, different ethnicity, different culture, different complex problem. So you know that there's the trust, and then the technology that should be used locally, and then the being flexible, and then I think I suppose only three, but then of course I would like have the last one is what is it like how to call it, not only the communication, but like more like in the action, like having the local, like if you're Finns, I'm Indonesian, so I don't need to hire communication and the culture. But if you're in Finnish company, institution, it will be an Indonesian local partner you know already. I'm very happy to have this supervisor with a student, because that's how you can start the collaboration. Like it, how me and Professor Marco start, because I speak student, and it's continue. We collaboration with Indonesia because he has me and Indonesia and has kind of the connect there. So I would like to recommend also that if you're in this company or if you're in this professor, have some network to Indonesian student or any Indonesian staff, then it will be the first nice network. Then you can connect to the Indonesian. I mean, Indonesian here in Finland or Indonesian that you know nearby. Oh, sorry, that I start to comment. But that is the 4 point for me, the main important to get success in Indonesia's research or project.
So being flexible is one of the key to successful research, as well as having local partners. Yeah, thank you so much, Wendy. So I would like to, if there's any panelists would like to add to that question? Yes, please, Elsa.
I can just
Thank you so much.
comment
Yeah.
that as again the focus is in business, but research as a part of the project is like supported. Like for example, in Windy's Resistance project, it's research there. Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that knowing the local culture, I think is really important there, as Wendy also mentioned, and to creating great business plan ahead, having enough resources, also having your technology ready, and you should
pilot that also in the target country, because probably it doesn't work the same way there as it works in your home country. And yeah, already identifying some partners, because like our support, you need to have initial plan already. If you are applying, you should already have all those things in mind. We are supporting them, but in order to get the finance, you should already have all those steps in your mind. So that's important to study, know what you are doing more or less. It can be changed later if you realize that it goes a little bit differently than you expected, but there should be initial like process.
That adds another element that we need to pay attention to when it comes to conduct a successful research. Now I would like to turn to the audience. Mr. Christopher. Oh, sorry. Yes, sure. Christopher, please. I'm very sorry. I didn't see the screen. It's kind of confusing to have 3 screens at the same time.
No, that's my. Yeah, I'm virtually here, so I'm a bit the underdog, I guess. But just to add also that kind of talking about business innovation and R&D. I think also you need to be present in Indonesia at some point, and you need to really be there, understand the local culture and needs. And maybe I also want to highlight as a social scientist the importance of kind of business model research. So it's not only about technical research. I think most projects should have some kind of element of developing the revenue model or the business model or the partnership. So I think that is maybe a common challenge I see when talking to many companies, that they very much start from the technology and from the technology as it looks like here in Finland. But I think there should always be an element of us also understanding what kind of business model you need. And I think that also requires research. So that is also rather advanced work, and that is also the kind of work we can fund. So just to make that point here in the end.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for the insight. It had been mentioned before, so that by Christopher, that local culture and local presence in the country itself is also important. Now I would like to turn to the audience. We have Professor Siti Subandia to have a first question. Please, Professor.
Thank you. My question, or maybe I would like to share to you that the Ministry of Research, Education, Research and Technology, since last year, we have a kind of scheme, a kind of research with a matching fund. This scheme is from Directorate of Higher Education. So this is have to be with the university. And the other side is the business industry. The Ministry of Research and Education will give some research and also development funding to the university, engage with a business industry, equal. It is just started last year, and we just got funding for 3 months. But this year, they call again for the proposal, and this March is the first batch, and then April, and then May, and it will be for 1 year. Because our Ministry of Education also would like to open this program of free study in a free campus, where university student can have kind of internship for 1 semester in the industry, or for the postgraduate join research with the industry. So if you have any collaboration with or maybe you support any emerging business or industry in Indonesia, then we may have a kind of this MF program with that industry, but then it will be integrated, because we can apply for that higher education program to promote together our student, our lecturer, professor can have opportunity not only studying in the campus, but also outside the campus in the industry. And I would like to, I mean, the government would like to improve to, what is it, develop this small industry. So it will be because used to be in Indonesia, research is just university, no, I mean, very limited company or industry provide any research whatever, not like in developed country. No, this is the time the government would like to merge. So if you have any, heard anything, yeah, about that?
Yeah, thank you, Professor. That was really good news. I heard a little bit about it, but not that deeply, and I'm really interested and share it with Finnish companies. We have a lot of, many, I mean, this is Finland, this is not a lot, but many good big Finnish companies establish a really good business in Indonesia. So that's for sure. They do not have research centers there. So if we want to emphasize the Indonesian students or researchers to them, it probably will be abroad then, well, closest, well, but just, I think it could be like Singapore or actually then in Finland. But in addition to that, I want to, and I kind of forgot to mention, Business Finland has a program also a little bit similar. It's called Talent Boost. And it is like now, I think this year it has been expanded so that the Finnish companies are looking for good workers for short-term employment in Finland. So actually, if there's somebody in Indonesia who has something to give, like to develop the company in Finland, and actually naturally himself herself, and make this connection, that's possible with we can provide funding for that. So that's also possible. These 2 points I have.
Thank you. And this is also for the company. They also welcome to use our laboratory or field laboratory facilities. So we are merging something like that.
Thank you. I have
Yeah.
a couple of companies in mind now that you mentioned.
Thank you so much, Professor Subandia and Nina, for the insight. That's very useful to provide an example or in real world that how this industry, academy work together to provide useful research collaborations facilitated by the government. And luckily it has also been responded by Indonesian government that there is a need to collaborate between among these stakeholders. So because of the time, I would like to invite one last question from the audience, then can wrap up the session after that. Any question from the audience? All right. Then I think then if that's the case, if there's nothing, if there isn't anything to add from the panelists, anything, last comments? Okay, so now allow me to just provide a wrap up of the session. So in order to have the strategy to build long-term research collaboration between Indonesia and Finland involves three-pronged approach involving industry, academia, and government. But as Christopher Palmberg said, it also needs to involve another stakeholders, the NGO, to identify social challenges to better suit with meeting the sustainable development goals, as earlier mentioned by Elsa Newman. Also, the keyword is, as mentioned by the panelists, network, opportunity, and trust. Wendy mentioned that earlier as well as by Nina. And Christopher also mentioned that the role of the institution, both Business Finland and Finn Partnership, is not only to fund the project or the research, but also to connect people. People is something or asset that we really need to, because Wendy mentioned that earlier, network is necessary, and this connecting people is being facilitated by Business Finland and Finn Partnerships. And now in conducting successful research in Indonesia, an entity or a company or individual needs to be flexible, because and because not because of the, and to better adapt with the local situation, and then to have a local partner, as mentioned earlier by Christopher, to be present there and to understand the local culture. And the quality research, you have to be ready. Elsa Newman mentioned about you should prepare for your research, read a lot, study a lot, identify the opportunities. So I guess that's some of the points that we got from our discussion today. And we hope this is fruitful for you, for all of us. Thank you so much for, I would like to say thank you so much for to the panelists, Nina, Windy, Elsa Newman, Christopher Palmberg from the conference call. I would like to invite the audience to provide a big round of applause to the panelists for the productive discussion today.
Yes. Big applause for the last session of the seminar. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for all of the panelists and also the moderator. Yep. And I have one answer also from Mrs. Trisundari from BRIN. I think that's in the session of Mr. Nugo. So basically the new procedure through ethical clearance, we will give the permit based on the duration of the research proposal. Maybe if the attendance is online, still ask about that. Yeah, so we are already in the almost the last session of the seminar. Before we wrap up our today's seminar, there is closing remark from the organizer. Please welcome again, or Professor Marco also can be there if, or can be here. It doesn't matter now. Yeah, and Professor Marco will give the closing remark from the Multidiscipline Center of Excellence in Antimicrobial Resistance. The floor is yours again, Mr. Professor.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I have a few things that I got here today. We know that the great challenges, something like climate change, biodiversity loss, pandemics, AMR, they do not respect the borders, which is a clear motivation for the collaboration. And that also, of course, include collaborations between Indonesia and Finland. A collaboration between academia and companies and also NGOs is a good starting point for long-term collaboration. And all levels are important: country, organization, individual. However, if there is no interest in collaboration on individual level, the collaboration will fail. Definitely in science, and at least in some extent to business as well. And when individuals work together, the trust is essential. If there is no trust, for example, the agreements won't help. They won't make the collaboration work. So the trust is really essential. And we have been talking quite a lot about funding. Science needs funding, and we learned that the funding collaboration between Indonesia and Finland is not straightforward. In any case, if the collaboration should be long-term, funding should also be long-term. But I don't think that we really found any solution here. There may be, or there is collaboration funding from BRIM in Indonesia. In Finland, for academic research, I really didn't find a clear idea to fund collaboration. Academia of Finland perhaps has some options, but nothing special for between Indonesia and Finland. For business side, there seems to be maybe even more options. And it was nice to see that in partnership, Indonesia was the second most popular country for the collaboration. I was not aware of that at all. One thing that for funding we didn't so much discuss is EU. So EU may offer some opportunities, not exactly between Indonesia and Finland, but between EU and Indonesia. And that is something that we should check. And like Teemu said, that people start collaboration based on their own interest. But if actors like governments of Finland and Indonesia are interested, they could provide some funding for the starting. But what that could be and how we could kind of emphasize that, I have no idea. I don't even have an idea which agents in Finland could provide that kind of funding. Maybe something related to PhD education could be a good starting point, because that's quite relatively small funding, and educating people usually has a very long-lasting effect. We have seen examples here, this year, and we also saw another, in fact, even better example, because then, the work was, continuing in Indonesia. Windy is staying in Finland. I end with some positive things. First, I personally was very happy to see that the research permit seems to be easier to apply now. It was not difficult to get, I must emphasize that. It was just the application was quite complicated. And one positive thing is that we are here now. First, it's nice to meet people face to face. That's very nice. And it also means that there are individuals who will work between Indonesia and Finland in the future as well. So thank you for everybody participating, and the Indonesian students for organizing.
Yeah, thank you so much again for Professor Marco Virta. Yeah, before we end our session, we'll invite all of the participants of today for a courtesy dinner hosted by Wisma Indonesia for the speakers, organizer, and invited guests. So basically all of the participants today at Wisma Indonesia. And the address is in Uimarin Polku, number 2, Helsinki. And the dress code is formal, or if Indonesian, we can use batik, of course. Yeah, so this is for all of